Welcome, traveler of time. Tonight, we step quietly into the past, into a world of discipline, danger, and daily hardship. Settle in and allow your mind to drift with the echoes of an empire that stretched across continents. You're listening to Restless Historian, where history unfolds slowly, in rich detail, and in a way that guides your thoughts gently through centuries. Each story, each life, is a journey meant to calm the mind while illuminating the past. If you enjoy these journeys, consider subscribing and leaving a like. It helps the channel grow, allowing us to explore history more deeply. And if you'd like to support us even further, our Patreon is open. Your contribution helps us research, craft, and create richer stories, and improve the equipment we use to bring history to life. Now, wherever you are tonight, I'd love to know. Are you listening from the quiet streets of a city, the rolling hills of the countryside, or somewhere far across the world? Imagine yourself there for a moment, and then let your mind travel back with me to a Roman camp at the break of dawn. Take a deep breath, settle into your chair or bed, feel your body relax, letting the tension of the day drift away. Allow the world around you to fade, replaced by the sight, sounds, and sensations of a soldier's life in ancient Rome. Tonight we explore what it truly meant to be a Roman soldier, and why, despite the armor, the drills, and the promise of glory, it often truly sucked. You awaken before the first light of dawn brushes the horizon. The chill of early morning presses against your skin, settling deep into your bones, a constant reminder that comfort is fleeting in the life of a Roman soldier. Outside the thin canvas of your tent, the camp lies still, almost holding its breath, waiting for the sun to rise. The faint smell of damp earth mingles with smoke from small fires left burning through the night. A distant bird calls, its cry sharp and lonely, echoing across the silent rows of tents. The canvas above you rustles slightly as a light wind moves through the camp. You pull your tunic tighter around your shoulders, feeling the chill creep in despite the layers. The ground beneath your feet is cold, damp, and uneven. Each step as you leave your tent is measured, cautious, aware of the hidden irregularities of mud, pebbles, and roots that could twist an ankle or slow your pace. Around you, the faint, soft sounds of other soldiers stirring reach your ears, the slow shuffle of feet, the creak of leather, and the occasional quiet murmur, almost like whispers shared between friends and neighbors. The first task is always preparation. Your gladius rests in its scabbard, polished but worn from countless days of drills, skirmishes, and marches. The leather straps of your armor lie coiled and ready. The familiar weight of them is already heavy on your mind. You lift them, adjusting straps with precise movements, feeling the cold metal of the lorica segmentata against your chest and shoulders. It is uncomfortable, constricting, but necessary, a constant, physical reminder of the discipline that binds you and your comrades together. A centurion passes nearby, moving with sharp, deliberate steps, eyes scanning each row of tents with practiced vigilance. One of your comrades trips over a loose strap, catching himself with a startled grunt. The centurion's scowl is immediate, a silent warning that small mistakes have consequences, even before the day has begun. You exchange a glance with the man beside you, a brief, silent acknowledgement that this is the world you inhabit. One measured by attention, readiness, and unyielding expectation. Breakfast is meager, as it always is, a small portion of coarse bread, a scoop of thick porridge, and water drawn from the nearby stream. The porridge is bland, almost bitter, yet it fills your stomach enough to carry you through the first few hours. Some soldiers add a hint of salt or oil if they are fortunate, an indulgence that feels luxurious in the harsh morning. Around you, others eat in silence, their focus on efficiency rather than enjoyment. Conversation is minimal. The body must be preserved for the labor to come, and energy cannot be wasted. The camp is slowly coming to life. You hear the sound of a horse whinnying softly as its rider adjusts the saddle, the creak of leather mixing with the distant murmur of soldiers preparing for drills. Fires crackle gently, small orange tongues licking the morning air as water boils in iron pots. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth, smoke, and the faint metallic tang of weapons. Each sense is heightened by the calm, the silence before the day truly begins. The centurion's horn sounds faintly, calling soldiers to attention. It cuts through the stillness like a blade, a sharp punctuation in the otherwise soft morning. You rise, shoulders squared, chest lifted, and begin the familiar ritual of inspection. Straps are tightened, armor adjusted, helmet placed carefully upon the head. Every movement is deliberate, precise, honed through repetition over months or years. There is no room for error. Mistakes are not tolerated even in the simplest of preparations. As the first rays of sun begin to pierce the mist, shadows stretch across the camp. Tents take on new shapes, elongated and softened by the haze of early morning. Smoke drifts lazily upward, carrying with it the faint aroma of damp wood and the earthy scent of the ground. The rhythmic clatter of soldiers' feet, the soft murmur of voices, and the low hum of activity begin to weave together, forming a cadence that will carry you through the first hours of the day. Even in these quiet moments, tension hums beneath the surface. Each soldier is acutely aware that comfort is temporary, that danger may lie unseen beyond the camp, and that the empire you serve demands perfection and endurance. And yet there is a rhythm to it all, a strange, hypnotic order that gives shape to the chaos of war and marches. Each sound, each movement, each small task is a thread in a vast, intricate tapestry of discipline and survival. The camp begins to stir more fully now. From a distance, you hear the low, measured commands of the officers as they call their units to attention. Voices echo softly, almost like whispers carried on the morning breeze, yet they hold authority that bends the movements of men like iron rods. Soldiers begin to align themselves in small formations near the central paths, their movements deliberate, each step calculated. Boots sink slightly into the damp earth, leaving impressions that the mist will soon soften into indistinct shapes, as though the ground itself was swallowing the evidence of your presence. Nearby, a young recruit struggles to lift a heavy pack onto his back. The leather groans, the metal buckles clatter, and he grits his teeth against the sudden strain. A centurion walks past, observing, silent but unyielding. A nod of acknowledgement or a shake of the head. Small gestures that carry immense weight in the disciplined hierarchy of the legion. You watch quietly, your own pack secure and familiar, feeling the comforting, burdensome presence of it against your shoulders. Breakfast fires smoke lazily across the camp. Some soldiers add small bundles of herbs to their cooking pots, filling the air with a subtle, pungent scent. Others grind coarse grains into a thicker porridge. The smells mingle with damp earth and leather, forming an aroma that is distinctly Roman military, earthy, harsh, and yet oddly comforting after weeks of marches. You take a sip of your water, the cold liquid biting against your throat, reminding you that the world is both immediate and demanding, and that nothing about this life is meant to soothe entirely. A horse shifts impatiently nearby, and the soldier tending it mutters a quiet curse under his breath. Its hooves scrape against the soft ground, sending tiny clouds of damp dust into the air. Leather reins squeak as they are adjusted, and the faint, sharp smell of the animal mingles with the lingering smoke. You can't help but notice the rhythm of movement around you, the brushing of coats, the soft clatter of armor being checked, the faint metallic ring as a sword is drawn and returned to its scabbard. Each sound is a note in the symphony of the morning, ordinary yet essential to the heartbeat of the camp. The centurion calls for inspection. Soldiers line up along the central path, standing rigidly in ranks, their shoulders squared, eyes forward. Each man checks his neighbor quietly, the unspoken bond of discipline visible in subtle gestures, a finger adjusting a strap, a hand brushing dirt from a tunic, a glance to ensure armor sits correctly. It is meticulous, exacting, almost ritualistic. There is no room for error. Even the smallest lapse is noticed, remembered, and potentially punished. Nearby, two comrades whisper in low tones, careful not to draw the centurion's attention. They exchange brief jokes about last night's cold, the wet tents, and the stubbornness of the fires. The humor is muted, quiet, yet it carries a weight. Laughter, even soft, is a small rebellion, a reminder that even in the harshness of military life, humanity persists. You share a small smile with the soldier next to you, a fleeting connection that warms more than the fire ever could. By mid-morning, the pace of activity accelerates. Soldiers practice drills with gladi and shields, their movements precise, flowing, almost like a carefully choreographed dance. The clatter of wooden shields, the ring of steel, the occasional grunt as a strike lands, all blend into a rhythm that is harsh, demanding, and strangely hypnotic. You follow the movements of the men around you, correcting a fellow soldier's stance silently, adjusting your own grip, finding comfort in the repetition, in the ritual that defines the start of every day. Even the small chores, like tending to the fires or carrying water, become exercises in mindfulness. The water is drawn from a stream, cold and sharp, slipping from hands, slick with early morning dew. Each bucket requires care, each step along uneven ground demands attention, yet these mundane tasks anchor the mind. They remind you of the physical reality of the world, the simple but essential acts that sustain life in the camp. And yet, amid these ordinary moments, there is tension. News from the Empire's borders drifts slowly through the ranks. A minor skirmish, a raid, or a soldier returning from patrol brings whispers of danger beyond the horizon. The mind cannot rest entirely. It is attuned to potential threats, to the ever-present possibility of battle. Even in the calm, the soldier remains alert, the body conditioned to respond, the senses sharpened by months of practice and experience. As the sun rises higher, the mist begins to lift. Shadows shrink, tents take on sharper outlines, and the camp comes fully alive. The sounds intensify, the clack of boots on hard ground, the faint ringing of iron as weapons are inspected, the hum of conversation punctuated by commands. The air warms slightly, carrying with it the faint scent of herbs, the dryness of baking bread, and the ever-present tang of leather and metal. You inhale deeply, feeling the cool morning give way to the warmth of day, preparing yourself for the tasks ahead. By now, the soldiers are readying for the first march, the first test of endurance and discipline. Packs are checked, armor inspected, shields cleaned, gladi sharpened. The centurion calls the roll, his voice carrying authority that silences any murmurs. Each man responds, the sound echoing across the camp, binding the legion together in a shared purpose. You adjust your stance, feeling the weight of your pack, the cold bite of metal, the familiar strain in your shoulders. And in these moments, brief as they are, you feel the essence of life in the Roman camp, the mixture of order and discomfort, the discipline that shapes every movement, the small moments of camaraderie, the lingering tension that reminds you that every day may demand more than the body, mind, or spirit wishes to give. It is a life of structure, rigor, and endurance, beautiful in its own way, yet harsh, demanding, and unyielding. The march is imminent, and the camp hums with the subtle tension of anticipation. Soldiers move with purpose, adjusting armor, checking straps, and securing packs. Each action is precise, the result of countless repetitions, yet it is never automatic. Every movement carries weight, both literal and metaphorical, and you are aware of it with every breath, every flex of muscle, every measured step. The sun has climbed slightly higher, casting thin lines of light across the canvas tents. Dust rises softly from the trodden paths, mingling with the faint morning mist, forming a haze that blurs the edges of the camp. You can hear the distant sound of footsteps on packed earth, the soft clatter of metal, and the low murmur of soldiers speaking quietly to one another. Even these small sounds hold significance, marking the rhythm of preparation, the heartbeat of the legion. As the centurion moves along the ranks, he inspects the soldiers with exacting attention. One man's shield strap is loose, another's sandal is tied unevenly. Small errors are corrected quickly, silently, as if the order of the world depends upon them. You adjust your own equipment, ensuring that every buckle, every strap, every piece of metal sits precisely as it should. There is a strange comfort in this ritual. The knowledge that discipline is both protection and demand. That attention to detail may mean the difference between survival and injury in the hours to come. A group of younger recruits struggles with the weight of their packs. The leather creaks under strain, the metal buckles clatter, and their faces are pale with effort. A few glance toward the centurion, hoping for mercy, and a few flinch as a sharp word is spoken. You watch quietly, feeling the familiar mixture of sympathy and acceptance. This is the way of the Legion. Every soldier must endure, learn, and adapt. The harshness is not cruelty, but necessity, a lesson delivered daily in small increments, under the unyielding eyes of those who have walked this path longer than you have. Nearby, a soldier tends to his horse. The animal shifts impatiently, stamping its hooves, snorting clouds of vapor into the morning air. Leather reins squeak under careful adjustments, hooves scrape against damp ground, and the smell of animal mingles with smoke, wet earth, and the faint metallic tang of armor. You note the rhythm of activity around you, the brushing of coats, the quiet polishing of swords, the soft rustle of tents as others emerge. Every sound, every movement, every smell contributes to a sensory map of the camp, a living, breathing environment that is both comfort and challenge. Breakfast fires are extinguished slowly, leaving behind glowing embers and a faint trail of smoke that drifts upward. Soldiers carry water to refill their canteens. Some pause to take a sip, the cold liquid sharp against their throats. Others chew on coarse bread, mindful of the energy it must provide. Conversation is minimal, reserved for whispers and occasional advice, but even these small exchanges are meaningful. They are bonds of camaraderie, quiet acknowledgments that, despite the weight of discipline and the inevitability of hardship, humanity persists. The first steps of the march are taken with measured care. The column of soldiers moves slowly at first, boots sinking slightly into the damp soil. Packs shift, armor creaks, and the weight presses against shoulders and hips. Each soldier adjusts subtly to compensate, a silent choreography honed over weeks and months of repetitive marches. The sound of hundreds of feet striking the ground forms a rhythmic, almost hypnotic pattern. Dust rises with every step, mingling with morning mist and the scent of leather, smoke, and earth. As the march continues, the terrain begins to challenge even the most experienced soldiers. Mud clings to boots, rocks twist underfoot, and the uneven path forces constant adjustment of posture and balance. Blisters form silently, rubbing against skin, a persistent discomfort that becomes part of the rhythm of movement. The sun climbs steadily, its warmth a relief and a burden, pressing against armor and packs alike. Fatigue accumulates with every mile, but the column moves onward, driven by discipline, routine, and the unspoken knowledge that stopping is not an option. Small incidents occur along the way, reminders of the unpredictable nature of soldiering. A pack slips from a soldier's back, spilling contents across the path. A horse shies, stepping dangerously close to another soldier. The centurion's voice rings out sharply, correcting, warning, and enforcing order. These moments are brief, fleeting, yet they carry weight. They reinforce the constant need for attention, precision, and readiness. Each small mistake a reminder that the world does not pause for weakness or inattention. Despite the rigor, there are glimpses of camaraderie. A soldier reaches out to steady a struggling comrade. A quiet word of encouragement is exchanged. A shared glance brings understanding without the need for speech. These small human connections are precious, fleeting oases amid the relentless demands of the march. They remind you that though the legion is vast and discipline strict, each soldier is human, carrying fears, hopes, and burdens just like your own. By mid-morning, the column reaches a small rise overlooking a stretch of open plain. The wind carries the distant scent of wildflowers and damp earth, a rare reminder of beauty beyond the harsh reality of soldiering. The camp behind you diminishes, a network of tents, fires, and faint movement, now a memory in the haze of distance. Ahead, the path continues, winding over hills, through mud, and toward destinations unknown. Each step presses against the body. Each breath draws in a mixture of fatigue, anticipation, and the ever-present awareness that the day is only beginning. And in these moments, you realize the essence of a Roman soldier's existence, the intertwining of discipline and discomfort, the constant tension between duty and the physical limits of the body, the brief but vital moments of human connection. It is a life defined by endurance, a life in which comfort is rare and challenge is constant. Yet even in this early stage of the day, there is an almost hypnotic rhythm, a cadence that carries you forward, step by step, breath by breath, into the unfolding journey of what it truly means to serve in the legions of Rome. The terrain begins to change subtly as the march continues. Gentle hills rise ahead, their slopes dotted with patches of damp grass and scattered stones. The column moves in a steady, unbroken line, each soldier attuned to the rhythm of the one ahead, the weight of his own pack pressing firmly against his back. Every step demands attention. Every misstep can twist an ankle, strain a muscle, or invite the ire of a passing centurion. Mud clings to boots, sucking at leather, pulling and tugging with each movement, leaving behind clumps of earth that fall silently into the damp grass. The sun has risen fully now, warming the skin beneath layers of tunic and metal. Armor chafes relentlessly at the shoulders and hips. The metal plates, carefully polished before dawn, gleam with the soft light, but that beauty comes at the cost of comfort. The straps press, rub, and pinch, a constant nagging sensation that becomes part of the rhythm of each step. You adjust a buckle, flex your shoulders, and feel the familiar strain settle deeper into your muscles. The pain is minor yet persistent, a reminder that endurance is not just physical, but mental. Alongside you, comrades march in silence, each absorbed in their own thoughts. Some count their steps, others stare at the horizon, tracing the folds of distant hills or the pattern of clouds drifting slowly across the sky. A few exchange whispered comments about the ground ahead, the quality of the road, or the possibility of encountering trouble. These soft exchanges, though fleeting, are anchors in the otherwise relentless routine. They are reminders that even amidst discipline and fatigue, human connection endures. A pack slips from a soldier's back, its contents spilling across the path. A water skin, a piece of bread, and a bundle of cloth tumble into the mud. The man curses softly under his breath and kneels to retrieve the items, glancing nervously toward the centurion who has been watching the column from a slight rise. There is no shouted reprimand this time, only a measured glance that reminds him, and all of you, that mistakes are noticed, that vigilance must be constant, and that the Legion does not forgive carelessness easily. The wind shifts, carrying with it the scent of the nearby river, a faint tang of wet reeds, and the subtle aroma of baked bread from a small, distant village. These scents are fleeting, but they bring a momentary sense of relief, a gentle reminder that life exists beyond the strict confines of the march. You breathe deeply, allowing the air to fill your lungs, feeling the contrast between the cool moisture of morning and the warmth beginning to creep over your shoulders. Every inhale and exhale is a rhythm that carries you forward, step by step, mile by mile. Time stretches strangely in these early hours. The mind begins to wander even as the body labors. You think of home, of familiar streets and faces, of warmth and safety. Then, almost immediately, reality snaps back. The road ahead is unyielding, the pack is heavy, the sun climbs relentlessly, and the legion marches without pause. Reflection and attention exist side by side, intertwined, forcing you to balance thought with action, memory with endurance. The ground beneath your boots becomes less forgiving as the column climbs a gentle incline. Small rocks shift and grind against leather soles, demanding constant adjustment. A pebble slides underfoot, and you catch yourself instinctively, a tiny gesture of balance that occupies no more than a fraction of a second, yet holds the potential to prevent injury. Around you, others negotiate the same obstacles, their bodies moving with experience, muscles attuned to terrain, eyes scanning the path, minds calculating each step. You notice the subtle exchanges among soldiers. A hand brushes against another to steady a stumble. A quiet word of encouragement floats on the wind, barely audible but understood instantly. There are nods, brief smiles, and shared glances, small human gestures that weave a fragile safety net amid the harsh physical demands. Even in this disciplined, rigid environment, the bonds of shared struggle manifest, invisible threads of camaraderie connecting you to those who march beside you. The sun now warms your back, and the metal of the lorica segmentata presses against the skin, drawing sweat despite the chill that still lingers in shaded spots. Patches of grass are slick with dew, mud clings persistently, and small streams crisscross the path, forcing soldiers to step carefully to avoid slipping. You adjust your sandals, feeling the leather straps bite slightly at blisters forming from yesterday's marches. Each small pain compounds the larger reality. This march is relentless, and comfort is a distant memory. Occasionally, a bird takes flight from the trees lining the road, startled by the passage of soldiers. Its wings beat in a rhythmic pattern, a fleeting reminder that life persists around you, indifferent to the hardships of men. The sound carries over the rhythmic thud of boots and the occasional clank of armor. It is a subtle reminder that the world is larger than the legion, that beauty and movement exist beyond the narrow path of duty and discipline. As the march continues, the first signs of fatigue begin to manifest. Shoulders ache under the weight of armor and packs. Legs grow heavy, calves burn with exertion, and the soles of your feet press against uneven terrain with every step. Each soldier faces the same struggle, yet the column moves as one, coordinated, precise, disciplined. The rhythm of movement becomes almost meditative, a trance-like state in which the body endures, the mind wanders, and awareness sharpens simultaneously. A small incident unfolds. A young recruit falters, nearly stumbling into the column. A seasoned soldier reaches instinctively, catching him by the shoulder, steadying his steps. No words are spoken, only the silent communication of experience and instinct. The recruit nods briefly, cheeks flushed, and the column continues without pause. It is a brief, fleeting act of humanity, a reminder that even amidst rigid discipline, compassion finds its place. The march stretches on, the road ahead, unchanging yet demanding. The sun climbs higher, its warmth pressing against the metal of your armor and the layers of tunic beneath. Sweat drips steadily down your back, soaking the leather straps of your pack, the chill of early morning long gone. Each step requires effort, measured and deliberate. Even the smallest incline forces your legs to adjust, your feet to find balance, your shoulders to bear the persistent weight of both pack and metal. Around you, the column moves as a single, disciplined organism. Faces are pale with exertion, brows furrowed, muscles taut. You hear the soft grunts of effort, the occasional sigh, the subtle shift of armor against skin. Some soldiers pace themselves with careful calculation, others push forward with silent determination, willing their bodies to ignore fatigue. You find your own rhythm, breathing deliberately, matching step to step, footfall to footfall, allowing your mind to float just slightly ahead of your body, to anticipate obstacles, to notice patterns, to register the faint sounds of the world around you. The terrain changes as you pass a small rise, revealing a stretch of river glinting in the sunlight. The water is clear, rushing over stones, and carries a faint coolness that reminds you of nights beside streams during earlier marches. A soldier pauses briefly, reaching out to touch the water with a gloved hand. A ripple spreads across its surface, tiny waves reflecting the sun in fleeting brilliance. You take a deep breath, inhaling the scent of water, earth, and distant flora. It is a brief, almost imperceptible reprieve, a reminder that the world is larger than the narrow path of duty, and that beauty persists even amid hardship. Yet relief is fleeting. Mud clings stubbornly to boots, small rocks press against sore soles, and the weight of your pack continues its unrelenting press. Blisters have begun to form, a reminder that the body, though conditioned, is not invulnerable. The sun shifts higher, casting sharp shadows that draw lines across the landscape. Each step requires attention, each glance to the horizon a calculation of distance and effort. The mind begins to feel the strain as acutely as the body. Focus wavers, only to be restored by the sound of the soldier ahead or the gentle nudge of a comrade maintaining rhythm beside you. Conversations are rare, reserved for whispered instructions or quiet encouragement. A soft word reaches your ear, barely audible over the combined rhythm of boots, armor, and pack. You respond with a subtle nod or glance, a connection that communicates without disrupting the flow of the march. These small gestures, often unnoticed by others, form the invisible threads that hold the column together. They are reminders that the human spirit persists, even in the regimented, often unforgiving life of a Roman soldier. The weather begins to shift. Clouds drift lazily across the sky, softening the harsh light of the sun. A cool breeze sweeps down from a nearby hill, bringing with it the scent of wildflowers and damp earth. It brushes across your skin and through the folds of your tunic, carrying a brief, refreshing relief. Yet even this gentle caress is tempered by the weight of fatigue and the persistent pressure of armor. You adjust your straps, breathe deeply, and press forward, step after step, mindful of both the body's limits and the discipline that forbids slackening. Minor incidents continue to punctuate the march. A pack strap loosens, a soldier stumbles on a hidden rock, and a horse shifts its weight dangerously close to the column. Each moment is met with a swift, practiced response, adjustment, steadying, correction. There is no panic, no chaos, only the measured, silent efficiency of experience and discipline. It is in these small, fleeting acts that the human and the regimented intertwine, the soldier's instincts blending with the unyielding demands of duty. As the day progresses, fatigue becomes more pronounced. Muscles ache deeply, shoulders feel bruised beneath the constant weight, and the soles of your feet throb with every step. Hunger begins to gnaw at the edges of focus, a persistent reminder that the body must be nourished even as it endures. Yet the march continues, unrelenting, a testament to the discipline, endurance, and mental fortitude required to survive, to remain a part of the legion, to fulfill the obligations that define a Roman soldier. Small acts of camaraderie emerge amid the exhaustion. A soldier offers a bite of bread to a comrade, a hand steadies another as he navigates slippery ground. A brief, shared glance conveys understanding without a single word. These moments, though fleeting, are profound, tiny islands of warmth in the harsh reality of the march. They remind you that though the life of a soldier is defined by discipline and hardship, humanity persists in subtle, often unspoken ways. By late afternoon, the camp's first destination is finally in sight. Smoke rises faintly in the distance, small tents and the promise of water and rest visible against the soft hills. The march has been long, arduous and unrelenting, yet there is satisfaction in arrival. The column slows, soldiers adjusting their steps, finding brief comfort in the knowledge that for now, movement may cease, that bodies may rest, that blisters can be tended and packs unloaded, and yet, even in this brief respite, there is awareness of the larger reality. Tomorrow will bring another march, another day of exertion, discipline, and minor hardships. The legion's demands are unending, and the life of a Roman soldier is a perpetual balance between survival, duty, and endurance. As you finally rest your shoulders, feeling the strain dissipate just slightly, you reflect quietly on the morning's journey. You think of the cold before dawn, the careful preparation, the rhythm of marching, the minor incidents that tested attention and reflex, the fleeting moments of camaraderie, and the physical toll that has accumulated with every step. It is a life of structure, rigor, and constant challenge, one in which comfort is rare, and perseverance is the measure of existence. And as the sun begins its descent, casting long shadows across the hills and river below, you allow yourself a moment to simply breathe. The march is done for now, yet the day remains, and with it, the unyielding reality of life as a Roman soldier, disciplined, demanding, exhausting, and yet, in its own harsh way, profoundly alive. The morning light has fully claimed the sky, but the warmth it brings does little to ease the persistent weight pressing upon your shoulders. The march resumes steady and unyielding. Leather and metal press against the skin. Boots sink slightly into the soft, uneven ground. You inhale deeply, tasting the mixture of dust, sweat, and the faint metallic tang of iron from the armor that binds you. Each breath carries with it a reminder. This is life as a Roman soldier, unadorned, uncompromising, and relentless. The terrain grows increasingly treacherous. Hills rise sharply, dotted with jagged stones and patches of slick mud, evidence of the previous night's rain. Each step is deliberate, each movement calculated as the ground threatens to betray even the smallest lapse in attention. Blisters form silently beneath the straps of your sandals. Muscles quiver under the strain of carrying packs and armor for hours without reprieve. The weight is constant, omnipresent, and yet it is only a fraction of the burden demanded by the discipline, vigilance, and mental endurance required to march without faltering. Around you, comrades struggle similarly. Faces are pale with exertion, sweat tracing lines down furrowed brows. Some stumble slightly, recovering instinctively with a glance or touch from the soldier beside them. The centurion moves along the column, inspecting, correcting, reminding all that the rhythm of the legion must never falter. A whispered word of encouragement, a subtle gesture, or a hand on a shoulder can mean the difference between collapse and continuation. Even amidst discipline, humanity manifests in these fleeting, unspoken ways. The sun climbs higher, burning against exposed skin, its heat magnified by the dark metal of armor and the thick fabric beneath. The air shimmers above dry patches of earth, and dust rises with every footfall, mingling with the lingering scent of sweat and damp soil. Water from morning streams has long been absorbed by parched tongues and lips. Thirst gnaws quietly, a companion to fatigue and aching muscles. Some soldiers pause momentarily to take small sips from canteens, sharing brief moments of relief before rejoining the unbroken line. Small incidents break the monotony of the march, yet each carries weight. A pack strap snaps, spilling the contents across the road. A piece of bread, a water skin, a bundle of cloth. The soldier curses softly, retrieving the items quickly under the watchful eye of the centurion. A horse stumbles on uneven ground, narrowly avoiding a fall onto a group of men. Each incident reminds all that vigilance must never waver, that even minor mistakes can yield consequences in a world defined by discipline and endurance. The mind drifts despite the exertion. You think of home, of familiar streets, of warm beds and quiet fires. These thoughts are brief and fragile, often shattered by the demands of the march, the weight pressing against the shoulders, the sun burning down, the uneven terrain testing balance and strength. Yet they persist, faint whispers that sustain the spirit even as the body struggles. Camaraderie becomes subtle but vital. A whispered joke, a shared glance, the passing of a small piece of bread or dried fruit, all become lifelines in the relentless tide of exertion. Each soldier, though disciplined and rigid in movement, is human. Small gestures of support, often unnoticed by others, form the invisible web that binds the column together. In this way, endurance is as much a product of shared humanity as of physical conditioning or rigid hierarchy. Clouds begin to gather as the march progresses. A cool wind rises, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant forests. It brushes against skin, providing fleeting relief from the sun's heat, yet also foreshadowing the possibility of rain, mud, and further hardship. The soldiers adjust instinctively, shifting packs, tightening straps, and keeping pace with the unbroken rhythm. Each element, sun, wind, uneven ground, exhaustion, becomes another layer of challenge, testing not just strength, but patience, resilience, and awareness. And so, step after step, mile after mile, the legion presses onward. The road stretches endlessly ahead, winding through hills, valleys, and forests, carrying the men toward destinations unknown. Each footfall is a beat in the rhythm of survival. Each breath, a silent acknowledgement that life as a Roman soldier is defined by endurance, discipline, and the constant interplay of hardship and fleeting relief. Clouds have thickened overhead, softening the sun but bringing a damp chill that seeps into every layer of clothing and metal. A light drizzle begins, settling on your skin and dripping from the edges of helmets. Leather straps grow slick, the packs heavier as they absorb moisture. Each step becomes a test, the already uneven ground now slippery with mud, forcing constant vigilance. You adjust your footing carefully, muscles tensing and relaxing in rhythm, finding balance in a world that seems determined to disrupt it. The rain intensifies. Drops sting exposed skin, soaking tunics and armor, chilling muscles that had begun to loosen with the morning sun. The weight of waterlogged packs presses harder on shoulders and hips. Boots sink into mud, leaving deep impressions with each step, forcing extra effort to lift legs and maintain the column's rhythm. Even breathing requires more conscious effort. The body reacts to fatigue and wetness, seeking equilibrium amid discomfort. Hunger gnaws at the edges of your focus. Breakfast was long gone, replaced by the relentless exertion of the march. The small piece of bread tucked into your pack is now damp and heavy, but you break off a bite, chewing slowly to conserve energy. Around you, others do the same. Water is rationed carefully, sipped in tiny measures, never enough to fully quench thirst. Each mouthful, each sip, is an exercise in patience and endurance, a fragile attempt to sustain the body against mounting demands. The psychological strain is subtle but pervasive. Minds wander, imagining home, loved ones, familiar comforts. Thoughts flicker between hope and doubt, courage and fear. The monotony of the march, combined with physical discomfort, creates a delicate tension. The need to endure clashing with the temptation to falter, the desire for rest challenging the obligation of duty. You push these thoughts aside, focusing instead on rhythm, breath, and the unbroken line of soldiers moving forward together. Minor incidents continue to punctuate the march. A pack slides down a slope, narrowly missing a soldier's foot. A horse snorts and shies, brushing dangerously close to the column. A young recruit slips, mud soaking through his sandals, and groans quietly as he regains his balance. Each event is met with swift, practiced responses, steadying hands, brief commands, subtle guidance, reminding all that even amid hardship, the Legion's rhythm cannot break. Camaraderie takes on quiet, understated forms. A soldier hands a small piece of dried fruit to a comrade. A gentle pat on the back reassures another struggling with a pack. A whispered joke cuts through the damp and fatigue. These acts, though seemingly minor, are vital, tiny lifelines of humanity woven into the relentless fabric of duty. They are reminders that survival depends not only on strength or discipline, but on connection, empathy, and the quiet support of those marching beside you. The rain grows heavier, cold water streaming down faces and mingling with sweat. Mud splashes with each step, making boots heavy and sticky. Armor creaks and shifts with every movement. Yet the column presses forward, footfall after footfall, breath by measured breath, each soldier locked in a silent agreement to endure. There is beauty in this perseverance, a rhythm that is harsh and punishing, yet strangely hypnotic. The body protests, the mind strains, but both continue step after step until the march itself becomes almost meditative. Time becomes distorted. Hours stretch endlessly, punctuated by small milestones, a bend in the road, a distant tree line, a glimmer of smoke from an approaching camp. Each marker is a minor victory, a small confirmation that the journey continues, that endurance has not yet failed. You count steps internally, matching rhythm to breath, tracking distance with the same precision used to manage packs, armor, and formation. It is a delicate balance, a dance between body and mind, fatigue and attention. By mid-afternoon, the rain begins to ease, leaving the air thick with humidity and the faint aroma of wet earth. The sun breaks occasionally through the clouds, warming soaked tunics and glinting off wet metal. Soldiers shake water from hair, straps, and cloaks, each gesture small but ritualistic, a subtle reclaiming of control in an environment dominated by relentless demands. Mudslides from boots, armor creaks, and the column presses on, tired but unbroken, each soldier tethered to the rhythm of the march, to the discipline of the Legion, to the unspoken bond that connects all who endure together. The day stretches onward, yet even in discomfort, small moments of human awareness persist. A glance at a fellow soldier's strained expression, a nod of silent acknowledgement, a brief shared memory whispered between breaths. These fleeting gestures reinforce the shared humanity that persists amidst discipline. The march is unrelenting, but it is not devoid of connection. In these small exchanges, camaraderie blossoms, quiet yet vital, sustaining the mind as much as the body. The sun begins its slow descent, though the air remains heavy with moisture. The march presses on, each step a test of endurance, each breath a reminder of exertion. Blisters have formed on feet, some raw, some aching with every contact against leather soles. Muscles quiver with fatigue, tendons complain with the slightest misstep, yet the body, conditioned by countless marches, continues without pause. Pain is constant, but it is a companion rather than an obstacle, an ever-present measure of effort and resilience. A soldier stumbles slightly on uneven terrain, a small rock hidden in the mud. Instantly a hand reaches out to steady him, a subtle touch that prevents a fall. The brief interaction is almost invisible to the broader column, but it embodies the unspoken bond between comrades. Around you, others adjust straps, shift packs, and offer quiet encouragement. small gestures that echo the larger rhythm of discipline and humanity intertwined. Hunger grows sharper. The small rations carried in packs are nearly gone, chewed slowly to conserve energy. Water is equally scarce. Every sip is calculated, a careful measure against the ongoing march. Thirst claws at the throat, reminding you that survival is not only measured by endurance, but by the careful management of limited resources. Even minor lapses and overindulgence of food, a forgotten sip of water, can compound over hours of exertion, emphasizing the constant awareness required to endure the day. The psychological weight of monotony begins to press more heavily. Hours stretch endlessly, footsteps blending into a continuous rhythm that alternates between hypnotic and taxing. Thoughts drift to home, to familiar streets, fires, and faces. Memory becomes both refuge and torment, a reminder of comfort juxtaposed with the harsh reality of immediate demands. Soldiers occasionally murmur small fragments of conversation, sharing thoughts, frustrations, or quiet humor. These fleeting moments of connection provide relief, reinforcing morale and the invisible threads of camaraderie. Rain begins again in a light drizzle, cooling overheated skin but saturating tunics and armor. Leather creaks under strain. Packs grow heavier as moisture permeates cloth and leather alike. The ground softens into slick mud, making each step precarious. Soldiers adjust constantly, negotiating the terrain with practiced care. Some slip, recover, and continue without pause. Each minor stumble, a reminder that vigilance is perpetual, that even the most routine movements carry consequences. Blisters and minor injuries become more evident as hours drag on. Feet are raw, skin rubbed and torn by the constant friction of soaked sandals. Muscles seize with cramp or fatigue, demanding attention even as the column moves forward without pause. Soldiers whisper brief remedies to each other, loosen a strap, adjust a pack, flex a joint. These small acts of shared experience reinforce cohesion, the quiet transmission of knowledge ensuring that the Legion continues as one despite the individual suffering of its members. The wind shifts again, carrying scents of distant fields, damp earth, and faint traces of smoke from nearby villages. For a fleeting moment, the march feels less oppressive, almost alive with sensory reminders of the world beyond the demands of duty. You inhale deeply, letting the air fill the lungs, feeling a subtle rejuvenation as mind and body adjust to the changing environment. Even in fatigue, beauty finds its place in simple observations: the sway of grass in the wind, the gleam of distant water, the muted colors of the approaching evening sky. At last, the temporary camp comes into view. Smoke rises from small fires, tents arranged methodically, the faint sound of activity marking the presence of other soldiers who have arrived before. Relief spreads subtly through the column, a shared exhalation as pace slows and footfalls soften. Armor is loosened, packs set aside, and soldiers stretch aching muscles, welcoming the brief respite. Minor injuries attended, blisters bandaged, and feet soaked and rubbed in preparation for the night. Even in the relative calm, discipline persists. The centurion oversees the setup of tents, the allocation of water, and the organization of the perimeter. Each action is precise, necessary, a quiet assertion that even rest must adhere to structure. Soldiers move with purpose, a mixture of exhaustion and routine guiding each gesture. There is no chaos, only the structured activity that marks the life of the Legion, the balance between relief and preparedness. As night approaches, conversation softens to whispers. Some speak quietly of home, others reflect on the day's march, and a few simply sit in silence, listening to the distant murmur of the camp and the faint rustle of leaves in the breeze. Fatigue dominates thought, yet reflection persists. Memories of the morning, the rhythm of the march, the weight of packs and armor, the camaraderie that sustained them. These reflections, subtle and quiet, are as important as any physical preparation, sustaining morale and preserving the mind against the relentless strain of life on the road. And so, the day concludes. The march is over, yet its lessons remain. Endurance is unyielding, discipline is constant, and humanity persists even in the harshest of circumstances. As you lie beneath the canvas of your tent, feet sore, muscles aching, and body heavy with fatigue, you understand, more fully than ever, what it truly means to live as a Roman soldier, a life defined by hardship, by shared struggle, and by the quiet, enduring rhythm of duty. The evening settles over the temporary camp, casting long shadows across canvas tents and the uneven ground. Fires glow softly, their smoke curling upward into the cooling air. Soldiers move deliberately, performing rituals that have become as familiar as the march itself, checking weapons, adjusting armor, tending horses, and preparing minimal rations. Even after hours of marching, the demands of camp life leave little room for true rest. Hierarchy is palpable. The centurion patrols the perimeter, observing each movement with a keen eye. Commands are quiet but precise, a subtle authority that ensures order. Any lapse, however small, is noted immediately. Discipline is not just about obedience. It is a system that sustains the legion's survival. Soldiers understand that even the tiniest mistake in camp can cascade into greater danger, whether during training, on the march, or in battle. Training resumes almost immediately. The clatter of swords striking wooden dummies, the thud of shields against shields, and the rhythmic stomping of feet fill the air. Fatigue is still fresh from the day's march, yet muscles are pushed further, conditioned to endure repetition and strain. Each swing, block, and thrust is a lesson in precision and endurance. Mistakes are corrected swiftly with sharp words or guided adjustments. There is no room for error. The body must become an extension of discipline, reflex, and anticipation. Punishment is an ever-present spectre. A soldier who fails to maintain equipment properly, who speaks out of turn, or who falters in training may be subjected to extra drills, physical labor, or reprimand. The centurion does not act from malice but from necessity. The legion functions only through order and unwavering attention. Observing punishment serves as a reminder to all, reinforcing that even small deviations from duty are costly. It is a world in which vigilance is as important as strength, and accountability is immediate. Meals are sparse and simple, yet they are essential. Soldiers gather near fires, roasting coarse bread, dried meat, or simple porridge. Water is rationed carefully, and conversation is minimal, focused on efficiency rather than leisure. Eating is functional, not comforting, a brief pause to sustain the body for training, march, or impending orders. Yet even this simple sustenance carries small joys: the warmth of a fire, the shared presence of comrades, the taste of bread softened over smoke. Hygiene is equally constrained. Bathing is infrequent, water precious, and mud from the march lingers on skin and clothing. Soldiers scrub what they can, tend to small injuries, and repair leather straps or sandals. Even in these small tasks, discipline is required. Carelessness risks discomfort, infection, or weakness. The legionary's life is one in which every action, however mundane, carries significance. Survival depends upon precision and attention, and rest is only as effective as preparation allows. Yet, amidst strict discipline and relentless routine, small moments of human connection persist. Soldiers exchange quiet jokes, share memories, or assist one another with packs, armor, or injuries. These gestures are subtle, often unnoticed by higher-ranking officers, but they sustain morale. They remind each soldier that though the Legion demands endurance and compliance, humanity persists in fleeting interactions, gestures and glances. The evening deepens, and shadows stretch across tents and campfires. Soldiers retreat to their assigned spaces, lying on straw, mats, or whatever padding is available. Exhaustion weighs heavily, yet sleep does not come easily. Minds remain alert, attuned to distant sounds, shifting tents, the occasional snort of a horse, the murmur of sentries, and the far-off rustle of leaves. Even in rest, awareness is necessary. Danger can approach silently, and readiness is a constant requirement. Reflections surface quietly as the body relaxes in the small moments before sleep. The march, the training, the discipline, and the exhaustion of the day replay in memory. Thoughts of home, of warmth, safety, and familiar faces linger, briefly comforting but shadowed by the reality of legion life. You recognize that this existence, painful, regimented, and relentless, is both necessary and inescapable. Endurance is survival, and survival is discipline, structure, and vigilance. The night continues, punctuated by distant conversation, the soft clatter of equipment, and the occasional murmur of sentries. Time stretches and contracts in a way that is almost imperceptible. Minutes can feel like hours, hours like minutes. And through it all, the body learns to endure, the mind learns to adapt, and the legionary understands that life in the camp is as demanding in its own way as life on the march or the battlefield. Night deepens over the camp, the sky now a muted canvas of stars filtered through drifting clouds. Fires burn low, casting flickering light across canvas tents and mud-streaked paths. The soldiers' exhaustion from the day's march is tangible. Bodies slump against packs or the cold earth, muscles aching from repeated exertion. Yet rest is measured, fleeting, and fragile. The life of a Roman soldier allows no true reprieve, for vigilance is required even in sleep. The night watch begins. A few soldiers remain awake, moving quietly along the perimeter. Sentries patrol in deliberate steps, scanning the darkness for any sign of danger. Every sound is registered, the shift of a tent, the snort of a horse, the distant rustle of leaves. Even a momentary lapse could be disastrous. Stealthy threats, bandits, or wild animals pose a risk that requires constant awareness. The rhythmic footfalls of the watchmen mingle with the quiet breathing of those resting, forming a subtle pattern that marks the passing of night. Minor injuries are attended with care, even in the dim glow of fires or torches. Blisters on feet are wrapped with cloth, small cuts and abrasions cleaned and bandaged. Leather straps are adjusted to reduce friction, and armor is inspected for cracks or weakness. These small rituals are performed with methodical precision, a quiet recognition that even minor discomforts, if neglected, can compound into serious impairment on the march or in battle. Each act of care is a testament to both survival instinct and the practical knowledge passed down through the ranks. Sleep comes in fits and starts. Muscles ache with persistent fatigue, yet the mind struggles to release vigilance entirely. Thoughts drift to home, to warm fires, familiar faces, and comforting routines left behind. The contrast between that life and the disciplined, regimented existence of the camp is stark. Homesickness is subtle but persistent, a quiet companion to exhaustion. Soldiers find solace in whispered conversation, the presence of a comrade nearby, or small gestures of shared understanding that bridge the distance between memory and reality. The night is punctuated by occasional disturbances. A horse shifts suddenly, causing a ripple of movement in nearby tents. A pack falls, spilling rations into the mud. Even these minor events require attention, the centurion or senior soldier responding swiftly to maintain order. Such disruptions remind all that the camp, though a place of temporary refuge, is never entirely safe. Vigilance is continuous, a quiet, unyielding demand that shapes every moment, even in the darkness. By early morning, the camp begins to stir. Faint light creeps over the horizon, revealing mud-slick paths, the glint of armor, and tents huddled in the mist. Soldiers rise slowly, stretching stiff muscles, rubbing tired eyes, and tending to minor injuries before the next march. Water is fetched, packs adjusted, and weapons checked. The rhythm of preparation mirrors the previous day, disciplined, unbroken, essential. The legionary knows that the day ahead will demand as much endurance and precision as the last. Breakfast is functional: coarse bread, dried meat, and water measured carefully. Conversation is minimal, focused on efficiency rather than comfort. Soldiers eat quickly, mindful of the long day that awaits. The centurion inspects the column, ensuring readiness, correcting minor faults, and silently reinforcing the discipline that sustains survival. Every act, from the placement of a strap to the polishing of a sword, is performed with attention, a quiet assertion that life in the camp is inseparable from preparation, vigilance, and structure. The march resumes shortly after sunrise, leaving the temporary camp behind. Each soldier carries the memory of the previous day's exertion, the fatigue, blisters, minor injuries, and moments of camaraderie as both burden and guide. Awareness is sharpened. Every movement, every sound, and every glance is imbued with meaning. The body protests, the mind strains, yet both continue, bound by the rhythm of duty, endurance, and the unspoken commitment to survive as part of the legion. Reflection persists, even amid exhaustion. Thoughts drift to home and family, to warmth and safety, to memories of simpler days. Yet these musings are tempered by reality. Survival depends on discipline, attention, and resilience. The legionary learns to embrace discomfort, to endure with purpose, and to recognize the subtle power of human connection that sustains the mind and body alike. In the quiet moments, when the world seems paused between steps and breath, understanding emerges. This life, though harsh, is defined by order, endurance, and the relentless intertwined rhythm of duty and humanity. Morning sunlight stretches across the camp, washing tents, muddy paths, and scattered equipment in a pale golden glow. Soldiers move with purpose, muscles still stiff from the previous day, feet tender from blisters and hard marches. Yet duty demands action. Weapons are inspected, armor tightened, and packs readied for another day of the relentless rhythm of legion life. The centurion moves through the ranks, sharp-eyed, ensuring that readiness is absolute. Even minor faults, a loose strap, a misaligned shield, a misfitted helmet, are corrected immediately, a reminder that precision is not optional. Drills begin early. Soldiers form into lines, shields clashing in rhythmic practice, swords striking wooden dummies in repeated, precise movements. Sweat pours freely, running down faces and back beneath metal armor. Muscle aches from prior exertion persist, but repetition strengthens endurance, builds instinct, and enforces discipline. Mistakes are met with corrective instruction, sometimes harsh, sometimes measured, but always unrelenting. The lessons are clear: the body must be an instrument of obedience, and the mind must anticipate every demand. Punishments are visible and frequent, though measured. A soldier who speaks out of turn, fails to maintain equipment, or falters during drills may be ordered to perform extra labor, repetitive exercises, or endure public reprimand. The centurion does not punish out of cruelty but necessity. The legion functions only through order and discipline. Observing punishment reinforces caution and attention, serving as a subtle yet constant reminder that every action carries consequences. Meals are sparse yet essential. Soldiers gather near fires to consume coarse bread, salted meat, and minimal portions of fruit or cheese. Conversation is quiet, functional, focused on sustenance rather than leisure. Water is measured, poured with care, and shared among comrades. Even this simple act, the breaking of bread and consumption of basic sustenance, requires attention, for hunger and dehydration are constant companions on the march and in camp. Yet within these small rituals, brief moments of comfort emerge: a shared morsel, a smile exchanged across the fire, or a whispered remark that breaks the monotony of rigid routine. Hygiene remains minimal but critical. Soldiers wash where water is available, scrub mud and sweat from skin, and tend to blisters or abrasions. Sandals are adjusted, armor polished or oiled, leather straps repaired. These acts, mundane in appearance, are vital. Neglect leads to infection, weakness, or reduced mobility, anything that threatens survival. Attention to these small details is a quiet, constant lesson in discipline, an acknowledgement that the body is as much a tool as the sword or shield it carries. Interactions among soldiers continue subtly throughout the day. Assistance with packs, shared jokes, small exchanges of food or advice, these moments of camaraderie sustain morale. They remind each soldier that even within the rigid structure of the Legion, human connection is vital. Bonds form quietly, often unnoticed by those outside the immediate group, yet they provide comfort, encouragement, and subtle strength against fatigue, discomfort, and homesickness. The day progresses with drills, inspections, and preparation for potential orders. Soldiers sharpen weapons, check armor, and rehearse formations. Even brief pauses for rest are structured. Time is allotted for stretching, tending minor injuries, or adjusting packs. Every act is purposeful, reinforcing discipline and readiness. Life in the camp is a careful balance between exertion, vigilance, and the small freedoms allowed by routine. As evening approaches, the camp quiets slightly. Fires burn low and shadows lengthen across tents and paths. Soldiers tend minor injuries, repair equipment, and prepare for rest. Conversation softens. Whispers replace louder speech. The day's exertions leave the body aching, yet the mind reflects on the day's events. Drills, discipline, camaraderie, minor hardships, and the fleeting moments of relief and connection. Even in exhaustion, reflection teaches endurance, resilience, and understanding of life as a legionary, structured, demanding, and profoundly alive in its rhythm. The night brings the final shift of sentries, the quiet patrols of soldiers who remain awake while others rest. Every movement is deliberate, every sound registered, every shadow observed. Even amid fatigue, awareness persists. Safety and survival are inseparable from vigilance. Sleep comes in intervals, brief but necessary, as the body restores itself in preparation for another day of strict routines, physical exertion, and the relentless expectations of the Legion. And so, Chapter 3 concludes, the camp is a world of discipline, structure, and endurance, a microcosm of the life of a Roman soldier. Meals are minimal, hygiene constrained, drills unyielding, and punishments exacting. Yet within this world, human connection, reflection, and resilience persist. The legionary learns to endure not just for survival, but for the rhythm, the order, and the subtle bonds that sustain life in the harsh reality of Roman military existence. The dawn is faint, pale light brushing over a horizon of hills and distant forests. The camp is quiet but alert. Soldiers rise from straw mats, stretching stiff muscles and tending to blisters that refuse to heal. Today, the march will be longer, the terrain less forgiving, and the weather unpredictable. Each step is anticipated before it is taken. Every movement calculated, every breath measured. The body has learned endurance, yet even endurance is tested anew each morning. Packs are adjusted, armor tightened, and weapons inspected with meticulous care. The centurion walks among the ranks, sharp eyes noting minor imperfections, a strap not fastened, a shield misaligned, a sword scabbard worn. Discipline is absolute. Even fatigue cannot excuse carelessness. Each soldier understands that survival is intertwined with preparedness, that one weak link can jeopardize the entire column. The march begins with a steady rhythm. Feet strike the earth in near-perfect unison, the sound muted by mud and worn leather soles. The road stretches endlessly, winding through hills, forests, and marshy fields. Mud clings to boots, uneven ground challenges balance, and the constant pressure of packs bears down on shoulders and hips. Sweat drips from faces, soaking tunics and metal armor, yet the column moves forward without pause. Hunger is a persistent companion. Breakfast was small, consumed quickly, and water rations are limited. The body protests, muscles craving nourishment, yet the march must continue. Soldiers share small bites of bread or dried meat, passing morsels to those whose pace falters, their movements a subtle acknowledgement of camaraderie and survival. Even amid exhaustion, these gestures sustain morale, reminding each soldier that endurance is not a solitary endeavor, but a collective one. Weather begins to shift unpredictably. Clouds gather thick and heavy, hinting at rain or storms. A chill drifts across exposed skin, carrying scents of wet earth and distant woodlands. Each footfall on slick ground requires careful attention, balance and awareness sharpened by previous experience. Soldiers navigate fallen branches, hidden stones and patches of mud, muscles straining against the uneven terrain. Every misstep is a lesson in vigilance. Every adjustment reinforces the relentless training that has become second nature. Minor injuries compound the hardship. Blisters tear further with each step, muscles cramp unexpectedly, and small cuts or abrasions ache as the column progresses. Soldiers whisper remedies to one another, adjusting straps, rubbing ointments, or offering supportive hands. The small gestures are as vital as training or discipline. They preserve the body, sustain morale, and reinforce the bonds of shared struggle that define life on campaign. Psychological strain is pervasive, subtle, yet constant. The mind oscillates between focus, memory, and anticipation. Thoughts of home, familiar faces, and warm fires intrude briefly, counterbalanced by the looming uncertainty of battle, the weight of responsibility, and the ever-present demands of the legion. Fear is quiet, manifesting as tension in muscles, a faster heartbeat, or a heightened awareness of surroundings. The soldier learns to manage it, to channel it into vigilance and endurance, transforming unease into preparation and resilience. Despite hardship, moments of human connection persist. Soldiers share brief jokes to lighten the mood, offer small comforts, a sip of water, a piece of bread, a pat on the back, and exchange glances that communicate understanding without words. These subtle interactions are lifelines, small reprieves that sustain spirit amidst fatigue and discomfort. They are reminders that humanity endures even when every aspect of life is regimented, painful, and demanding. The column progresses steadily, step by step, mile by mile. Sunlight shifts, casting patterns across the ground, illuminating the sheen of sweat on armor, the tension in muscles, and the pale, exhausted faces of soldiers. Each step reinforces endurance, each breath sustains life, and each gesture, however minor, strengthens camaraderie. The march is unending, yet there is rhythm in hardship, and even in suffering, there is the quiet satisfaction of survival and the subtle awareness of resilience. By mid-morning, the weather shifts again. Rain falls in steady sheets, soaking the column, turning mud into treacherous terrain. Soldiers adjust packs, tighten straps, and navigate cautiously, muscles straining against slippery slopes and hidden obstacles. Blisters sting more sharply. Clothing sticks uncomfortably to skin. Waterlogged leather creaks with every movement. And yet, the march continues unbroken, a testament to endurance, discipline, and the relentless demands of campaign life. The afternoon sun struggles to pierce the heavy clouds above, casting a muted light over the sodden landscape. Soldiers press onward, boots sinking into mud, armor clanking softly with each step. Fatigue is now visible in every movement. Shoulders slump slightly under packs, arms tire from repetitive swinging, and muscles ache in ways that cannot be ignored. The march stretches endlessly, hills rising and falling like an unbroken wave, testing both physical endurance and mental resilience. As the column advances, distant signs of the enemy, scouts, smoke, or faint disturbances in the tree line keep the mind alert. Even the quietest murmurs among soldiers carry tension, as speculation of potential combat blends with exhaustion. Fear is present, muted yet persistent, woven into the rhythm of each step. The soldier learns to walk with it, to allow anxiety to sharpen awareness rather than undermine resolve. Small incidents punctuate the monotonous rhythm of the march. A pack slips from a shoulder, spilling rations into the mud. A horse stumbles, narrowly avoiding a collapse onto a soldier. Blisters, already tender, are aggravated with each step, and minor cuts sting more sharply in the rain. Yet the column halts only briefly. Hands steadying packs, adjusting straps and murmuring encouragement before resuming its unbroken pace. Every soldier understands the cost of pause. Survival demands perseverance, vigilance, and discipline. Camaraderie remains vital in these moments. Soldiers share water sparingly, exchange short jokes to cut tension, and offer small gestures of support, steadying hands, adjusted armor, or whispered reassurance. These acts, though minor, carry weight far beyond their size. They sustain morale, reinforce bonds, and provide subtle reminders that even amid relentless hardship, humanity persists. By late afternoon, the terrain grows more unforgiving. Dense forest, marshes, or rocky hills test balance and endurance. Every step requires calculation, the angle of descent, the placement of each boot, and the tension in each muscle. The body protests, fatigue gnawing at strength, yet discipline and experience dictate pace. Soldiers adjust instinctively, their movements refined by countless marches, injuries, and training. The rhythm of marching, though exhausting, becomes almost meditative, each step a lesson in endurance, attention, and survival. Psychological strain intensifies as signs of impending battle loom. Thoughts of home mingle with the weight of duty, fear of injury, and the anticipation of violence. Mental fatigue competes with physical exhaustion, testing focus, discipline, and the soldier's ability to respond quickly to commands. Even amidst these pressures, moments of reflection persist, memories of past campaigns, fleeting thoughts of family, or recollections of simple comforts serve as brief refuges in an otherwise relentless world. The column finally approaches the evening camp. Temporary defenses are arranged quickly, perimeter posts are set, fires are lit, and tents pitched with efficiency born of habit. Soldiers move with tired precision, muscles protesting, yet hands steady and minds sharp. Even in temporary rest, vigilance remains. Scouts patrol the surrounding area, sentries rotate shifts, and the faint sound of distant wildlife or enemy movement is noted and remembered. Meals are taken quickly and minimally. Coarse bread, salted meat, and water sustain rather than comfort. Hygiene is brief, hands scrubbed, mud wiped from boots, minor injuries tended with care. Soldiers stretch tight muscles, swap brief words of encouragement, and quietly reflect on the day's march. The hardships from fatigue to hunger, minor injuries to psychological tension are absorbed silently, internalized as part of the unyielding rhythm of life in campaign. As night falls, the camp quiets. Fires glow softly, shadows stretch across tents and paths, and soldiers settle into whatever sleeping arrangements are available. Sleep is fragmented, brief, yet necessary. Minds remain alert, even in repose, attuned to the faintest sound or movement, preparing the body and psyche for another day of discipline, exertion, and potential combat. And so the day concludes. Another long march, another test of endurance, another reminder that life on campaign is harsh, unrelenting and governed by discipline, preparation, and subtle acts of camaraderie. The soldier rests not in comfort but in anticipation, understanding that survival depends not just on strength, but on vigilance, resilience, and the quiet rhythm of life under relentless demand. Evening settles with a muted glow over the temporary camp, the sky a deepening mix of grey and amber. Fires burn low, casting flickering light across canvas tents, mud-slicked paths, and worn armor. Soldiers, exhausted from the day's relentless march, move with measured care, some tending blisters, others adjusting packs, and a few simply stretching aching muscles. Every movement carries the weight of fatigue, yet precision is required. The camp's safety and functionality rely on attention, no matter how tired the body. Camaraderie persists in small, meaningful ways. Soldiers exchange quiet jokes, share water or morsels of bread, and assist each other in setting up temporary shelters. These subtle gestures are lifelines, preserving morale when the mind and body are pushed to limits. Even minor acts, steadying a pack, adjusting a helmet, offering a brief word of encouragement, carry significance, reinforcing the invisible bonds that sustain endurance. Minor conflicts arise occasionally, a sharp word over a misplaced item or a tense exchange during the setup of defenses. Yet discipline tempers anger, and the hierarchy ensures resolution. Arguments are brief, corrected by senior soldiers or the centurion, and quickly absorbed into the broader rhythm of camp life. Conflict, when it occurs, is a reminder of human imperfection, yet it is managed within the rigid structure that defines survival. The night vigil begins. Sentries patrol the perimeter, steps deliberate and quiet, eyes scanning for the slightest sign of movement beyond the camp. Even as exhaustion weighs on the mind and body, awareness remains sharp. Sleep is intermittent, broken by rotations of watch, by distant noises, and by the knowledge that danger could approach silently. The soldier learns to rest in fragments, to balance vigilance with necessary recovery, cultivating endurance of both body and psyche. Reflection surfaces in the quiet moments. Memories of home, thoughts of family, and recollections of past campaigns intertwine with the awareness of immediate demands. The march, the training, the minor injuries, and the constant need for discipline replay in the mind. Even amid discomfort, the soldier recognizes resilience, the ability to persist despite hunger, fatigue, pain, and psychological strain. This reflection is both comforting and sobering, a testament to the rigors of life on campaign. Meals are minimal, functional rather than comforting. Coarse bread, salted meat, and small portions of fruit or cheese are consumed quickly, often beside the flickering firelight. Water is rationed carefully, sipped in small measures, each mouthful measured against the demands of exertion and the uncertainty of future supply. Hygiene is limited, hands scrubbed briefly, mud wiped from boots, minor cuts tended. Even these acts require attention and discipline, for neglect can lead to infection, weakness, and reduced readiness. As darkness deepens, conversation softens to whispers, punctuated by quiet laughter or shared stories. Soldiers find subtle ways to preserve humanity amidst relentless structure. A hand on a shoulder, a shared memory, or the simple act of acknowledging fatigue together. These interactions, though small, are vital. They sustain morale, reinforce bonds, and provide mental reprieve, reminding each soldier that life on campaign is not solely defined by hardship, but also by quiet resilience and human connection. Sleep comes in fragments. The body seeks relief, muscles relaxed momentarily on straw or mats, yet the mind remains vigilant. Thoughts shift between fear, anticipation, memory, and the faint hope of comfort or rest. Even in this partial reprieve, awareness persists. The faint rustle of leaves, the shifting of a pack, or the distant cry of a night creature can awaken instinctual tension. The legionary adapts, learning to balance rest with readiness, cultivating an endurance that is both physical and mental. By the time dawn approaches, the camp is a scene of quiet persistence. Sentries continue rotations, fires are rekindled for warmth and meals, and soldiers rise gradually to face another day. The The lessons of campaign life, discipline, endurance, vigilance, camaraderie, are woven into each action, forming a rhythm that defines existence. Every march, every injury, every small comfort or gesture reinforces the cycle of survival, preparation, and resilience. The day ends not with triumph, but with understanding. Life on campaign is relentless, demanding, and unforgiving, yet it is also structured, precise, and surprisingly human. Soldiers endure not simply for survival, but for the rhythm, order, and quiet bonds that sustain them. Every step, every breath, every act, no matter how small, carries meaning. And within this harsh reality, the soldier discovers a profound truth. Endurance, discipline, and camaraderie are as essential to survival as food, water, and armor. Dawn breaks over the battlefield, a pale, cold light illuminating rows of soldiers standing in formation. Shields gleam faintly, wet with dew, swords and spears glinting. The air is thick with tension and anticipation. Every legionary is acutely aware of the day's demands. Survival depends not only on skill but on discipline, timing, and the cohesion of the unit. Even minor mistakes can be fatal. The centurion moves along the ranks, inspecting weapons, armor, and formations. Commands are crisp, concise, and repeated until every soldier understands. Battle is not just a test of strength, it is a test of obedience, focus, and unspoken trust. Every eye is alert, every muscle taut. The soldier's heart pounds, a rhythm intertwined with the anticipation of violence, the uncertainty of outcomes, and the silent fear that hovers just beneath the surface. Drills practiced countless times now serve as life-saving instincts. Soldiers move almost without thought, executing maneuvers, shield formations, and coordinated attacks that have been honed over years of repetition. Even amidst exhaustion, the body remembers. Instinct and discipline blend seamlessly, creating a rhythm that allows focus amid chaos. The first clash is sudden. Arrows whistle through the air. The metallic clash of swords and shields erupts, and screams of exertion and pain mingle with the noise of combat. Time stretches and compresses simultaneously. Moments feel eternal, yet the rhythm of battle is relentless. Each movement must be precise. Hesitation can be fatal. The soldier reacts instinctively, shield-blocking blows, sword thrusting with practiced accuracy, muscles burning with exertion. Fear is omnipresent, but controlled. The mind registers danger, the body responds, and training overrides hesitation. Comrades fall, some screaming, some silent, and every death leaves a lasting impression. Yet there is no time for grief. Survival demands focus, speed, and unerring attention to both enemy movements and the safety of those alongside you. Camaraderie is tested in the most visceral ways. Soldiers protect one another instinctively, adjusting shield lines to cover gaps, supporting injured comrades, or intercepting blows aimed at a neighbor. These unspoken acts of loyalty are lifelines, reinforcing trust and often deciding who survives and who does not. In the chaos, every gesture of solidarity matters, no matter how small. The mental toll is immediate. The soldier's mind races, calculating threats, remembering formations, anticipating the enemy, and suppressing instinctive panic. Pain and fear compete with focus and determination. Blood, one's own or another's, stains armor and skin. The chaos of battle compresses time, amplifies every sensation, and tests every limit of endurance. Even small victories, driving back a wave of attackers, saving a comrade, or capturing a strategic position, are fleeting. There is no time for celebration, only preparation for the next wave, the next maneuver, the next surge of chaos. Awareness is continuous. The slightest lapse, a moment of distraction, can be the difference between life and death. By midday, exhaustion begins to accumulate, muscles trembling from sustained exertion. lungs burning from repeated exertion and sweat mixing with blood and mud. The soldier continues, driven by discipline, training, and the unspoken bond with comrades. Pain is constant, yet survival requires endurance beyond natural limits. The body, mind, and spirit are tested simultaneously, and even small acts of resilience, holding a position, countering an enemy strike, protecting a comrade, carry immense significance. Amidst the violence, moments of reflection pierce through. Memories of home, family, and simpler times flash briefly, mingling with the raw immediacy of survival. The contrast is stark and painful, a reminder of what is at stake, of the life left behind, and the uncertainty of the future. These fleeting reflections do not weaken resolve. Instead, they anchor it, providing a quiet motivation amidst the relentless demands of combat. By afternoon, the battle ebbs and flows. Soldiers are pushed to limits, muscles screaming, injuries accumulating, and fatigue deepening. The cohesion of the legion is tested. Formations must hold, communication must remain clear, and discipline must persist despite exhaustion. Every action, every thrust, block, or step is critical. The soldier learns that survival depends on rhythm, trust, and unwavering adherence to training. The sun climbs higher, its light glinting harshly off armor and weapons, reflecting the relentless heat of the battlefield. The clash of shields and the metallic ring of swords have become a continuous roar, punctuated by cries of exertion, pain, and fear. Sweat and blood mix on skin and armor, dripping into mud beneath boots. Fatigue gnaws at muscles, yet the soldier presses on, every movement a testament to training and endurance. Injuries multiply as the day progresses. Cuts, bruises, and punctures are inflicted with alarming speed, each one a reminder of the stakes, the fragility of life, and the cost of a single misstep. The soldier learns to compartmentalize pain, gritting teeth, ignoring throbbing muscles, and continuing the fight. Comrades fall nearby, some screaming, some silent, each death reinforcing both fear and focus. Survival depends on ignoring the horror long enough to respond with precision, instinct, and unwavering determination. Amidst chaos, moments of heroism emerge. Soldiers instinctively protect one another, intercepting blows aimed at a comrade, sharing water or rations, and pulling the wounded to safety when possible. These acts are often quiet, unremarkable in the broader noise of battle, yet they carry immense weight. Each small gesture can save a life, preserve a formation, or tip the balance in a crucial skirmish. The soldier learns that courage is measured not in grand gestures, but in these fleeting, vital decisions executed under unimaginable pressure. Fear persists, sometimes manifesting as a sudden tightening of muscles, a rush of adrenaline, or the instinct to retreat. Training tempers instinct, reinforcing discipline and focus. The mind alternates between calculating threats, anticipating attacks, and suppressing panic. Soldiers rely on their instincts, their comrades, and the rhythm of drills learned over years. Even amidst terror, survival requires precise timing, coordination, and the mental fortitude to continue when exhaustion and pain demand surrender. The psychological toll is cumulative. Each death witnessed, each wound sustained, each near miss amplifies stress. Soldiers wrestle with fleeting panic, the weight of responsibility for comrades, and the shock of brutality surrounding them. Breathing is shallow, thoughts fragmented, and focus a delicate balance between instinct and conscious decision-making. Yet, despite these pressures, the soldier perseveres, supported by training, camaraderie, and the discipline that defines the legion. As afternoon wanes, the battle continues with intermittent lulls. Soldiers take brief moments to catch breath, tend minor wounds, and adjust armor or weapons. The camaraderie that sustains them is evident in these pauses: whispered encouragement, shared water, a hand on a shoulder, or a silent nod acknowledging the effort of endurance. These small gestures maintain cohesion, bolster morale, and remind each soldier that survival is not solitary, but collective. Approaching the end of the engagement, the battlefield becomes a landscape of exhaustion, destruction, and survival. The legionary's body is battered, yet each action continues with disciplined precision. Muscles ache, lungs burn, and the mind teeters on the edge of fatigue, yet every thrust, block, and step is deliberate, driven by necessity, training, and the instinct to endure. Even minor successes, repelling a charge, saving a comrade, holding a position, provide fleeting relief, small victories amidst overwhelming chaos. By late afternoon, the clash subsides, leaving the surviving soldiers to process the aftermath. Wounded comrades are aided, the dead are acknowledged silently, and the battlefield itself is assessed for hazards, supplies, and tactical outcomes. Reflection surfaces as the immediate chaos fades. Grief, relief, pride, and fatigue intermingle. Each soldier is aware of survival's cost, the lessons learned under fire, and the profound bonds forged through shared struggle. Temporary camp is established near the battlefield. Fires are lit, water rationed, and basic medical attention provided to those who can still move. Sleep is shallow but necessary. Exhaustion competes with adrenaline, and minds remain alert to potential danger. Soldiers tend one another quietly, sharing food, words of encouragement, and gestures of reassurance. These small acts, often unnoticed by history, are vital. They restore body, mind, and spirit, preparing the legionary for another day of discipline, survival, and relentless endurance. And so the soldier learns, perhaps more acutely than ever. Life in battle is brutal, exhausting, and unforgiving. Yet survival relies not only on strength but on discipline, training, camaraderie, and the quiet courage to continue despite fear, pain, and loss. In the heat of combat, the soldier discovers the limits of endurance and the unexpected resilience of the human spirit when structured, disciplined, and shared with comrades. The sun sinks behind distant hills, casting long shadows across the battlefield. The clangor of combat has faded, replaced by the muffled sounds of labor, soldiers tending wounds, dragging the injured to safety, and clearing debris from the uneven ground. Sweat-streaked faces and bloodied hands testify to the relentless toll of the day. Yet there is a disciplined rhythm even in exhaustion. The soldier, though physically spent, remains alert, aware that danger could still approach with the night. Wounded comrades lie quietly, some moaning softly, others staring blankly at the sky. Care is administered efficiently, but with care, torn armor is adjusted, bandages applied, and pain mitigated where possible. These small acts are both practical and human, a recognition that survival is bound not just to skill or training, but to shared responsibility. A gentle touch, a word of reassurance, or a steadying hand preserves morale, reinforces bonds, and honors the dignity of those who endure. Reflection occupies the soldier's mind as fatigue settles deep into every muscle. The horrors witnessed, the chaos endured, and the sheer exhaustion of combat weigh heavily. Yet there is also a quiet understanding. The day's survival is a testament to training, discipline, and resilience. Thoughts drift between memory and reality. The comfort of home, the warmth of fire, and the faces of loved ones contrast sharply with the violence and unpredictability of battle. This mental balancing act becomes a skill in itself, allowing the soldier to maintain focus, process trauma, and prepare for what comes next. Meals are consumed sparingly, if at all. The focus is on sustenance, not comfort. Coarse bread, dried meat, and water measured carefully. Shared quietly by the fire, these small acts of eating together reinforce camaraderie and the subtle social bonds that sustain life in extreme conditions. Even the most basic sustenance becomes a ritual, a reminder that life continues and survival persists despite the day's brutality. Hygiene is minimal, but attended to where possible. Mud is scrubbed from skin, bloodied armor and clothing are rinsed, and minor wounds cleaned. The legionary knows that infection can be as deadly as the sword. Even in this fatigue, precision and care persist. Small actions, adjusting straps, checking weapons, or tending bandages, reflect the soldier's unbroken attention to survival and discipline. Camaraderie strengthens as night deepens. Soldiers exchange whispered words, quiet jokes, or shared reflections on the day. These subtle interactions are lifelines, providing emotional support, reinforcing trust, and reminding each soldier that endurance is collective. Even amid exhaustion, shared understanding and small gestures create resilience that no training alone can achieve. Sleep comes reluctantly. The body demands it, yet adrenaline and the awareness of potential danger keep the mind alert. Dreams are fragmented, often haunted by flashes of battle, cries of comrades, and fleeting memories of home. Even in slumber, the soldier's instincts remain finely tuned, ready to awaken at the faintest sign of threat. Rest is partial but necessary. It allows both body and mind to recover, even minimally, for the demands of tomorrow. As midnight approaches, sentries continue their patrols. Their steps are deliberate, eyes scanning the darkness, ears alert for the faintest disturbance. The remaining soldiers rest in intervals, muscles slowly relaxing, breathing deepening, and minds processing the day's events. The rhythm of vigilance and recovery is cyclical, a quiet testament to the balance between survival and fatigue that defines campaign life. By the first light of dawn, the camp is a scene of quiet determination. Fires glow, the wounded are tended further, and preparations begin for the next march. The soldier, though weary, rises with the understanding that the cycle of battle, endurance, and survival continues. Every scar, every blister, every memory of hardship carries lessons. Discipline, vigilance, and camaraderie are inseparable from survival. The day's struggle is both brutal and instructive, forging resilience in body, mind, and spirit. And so Chapter 5 concludes. Combat is relentless, exhausting, and psychologically taxing. The soldier learns that survival depends not solely on strength or skill, but on the disciplined mind, unwavering focus, and the quiet bonds of shared struggle. Each battle is both a trial and a lesson, a brutal yet transformative experience that tests endurance, courage, and humanity. Life as a legionary is defined by these rhythms of exertion, vigilance, and reflection, harsh, unyielding, and yet profoundly human in its demand for resilience and connection. The morning sun rises pale and distant, illuminating a column of soldiers who have marched for days with little reprieve. Their feet are blistered, armor dented and streaked with grime, and faces pale from the relentless exposure to wind, rain, and sun. Yet the column moves with measured precision, a testament to discipline forged over countless days of exhaustion and endurance. Each step carries the memory of marches past, of battles endured, and of the unyielding demands of the Legion. Fatigue is a constant companion. Muscles ache persistently, joints complain with each movement, and the body craves rest that the schedule rarely allows. Hunger gnaws quietly but relentlessly, bones and energy taxed by insufficient rations. Despite the discomfort, the soldier continues, learning to compartmentalize pain, to push through weakness, and to rely on instinct and training to sustain the relentless rhythm of the march. Adaptation is critical. Soldiers discover methods to endure, adjusting pack straps to reduce chafing, pacing steps to conserve energy, and rotating minor duties among comrades to share the physical load. Habits once unnoticed, the tight knot of a sandal strap, the precise folding of a tunic, the arrangement of rations, become vital rituals. Through repetition, discomfort is minimized, efficiency is maximized, and survival becomes a skill honed by experience and necessity. Psychological endurance is as demanding as the physical. Long days in harsh weather, repeated exposure to danger, and the monotony of endless marches test focus and morale. Soldiers develop subtle coping strategies, quiet conversation with a neighbor, mental rehearsal of drills, small private rituals of reflection, or whispered encouragement shared across ranks. Each method serves as a stabilizing force, a way to maintain composure and preserve clarity of mind amidst relentless adversity. Camaraderie strengthens with necessity. Soldiers rely on one another not merely for survival but for morale, guidance, and emotional support. A shared burden, whether the weight of packs, the effort of marching, or the vigilance required in dangerous terrain, creates bonds that are as vital as discipline. Moments of humor, whispered advice, or shared observation become lifelines, reinforcing trust and subtly reminding each soldier that endurance is both personal and collective. The centurion's presence is ever vital. Commands are issued with clarity, inspections occur without leniency, and minor faults are corrected immediately. Discipline maintains cohesion, ensuring that fatigue, hunger, and environmental hardship do not compromise the legion's effectiveness. The soldier internalizes these demands, understanding that personal comfort must often yield to collective necessity. Compliance is not optional, it is the difference between survival and catastrophe. The terrain itself is unforgiving. Hills rise abruptly, rivers demand careful crossing, and forests obscure footing while hiding potential threats. Weather changes without warning. Scorching heat, sudden downpours, or biting winds challenge the soldier's ability to maintain both speed and endurance. Each obstacle reinforces the importance of vigilance, preparation, and learned adaptability. Even minor miscalculations can lead to injury, loss of pace, or vulnerability to attack. Meals are brief, functional, and often taken on the move. Bread, salted meat, and water sustain rather than comfort. Yet small rituals, sharing morsels, passing water, or dividing rations evenly, preserve morale and a sense of order. Soldiers learn to eat efficiently, conserve energy, and maintain focus on both immediate survival and preparation for future challenges. Even sustenance becomes part of the broader rhythm of adaptation and endurance. The mind navigates a delicate balance. Memories of home, thoughts of loved ones, and recollections of warmth and comfort persist, countered by the harsh immediacy of campaign life. Fear, anticipation, and uncertainty mingle with hope, humor, and camaraderie, creating a complex mental landscape. The soldier develops the capacity to compartmentalize, to focus on the next mile, the next ration, the next task, without succumbing to despair or distraction. As afternoon approaches, the column continues with methodical rhythm. Fatigue is visible in drooping shoulders, labored breathing, and the slow adjustment of packs. Yet each soldier presses forward, guided by experience, discipline, and the subtle encouragement of comrades. The long campaign has taught that endurance is cultivated not in moments of ease, but in sustained effort, repeated hardship, and the quiet mastery of the body and mind under relentless pressure. Evening descends with a muted glow over the tired column. The day's march has stretched muscles to their limits, yet the soldiers' movements remain deliberate and disciplined. Tents are pitched quickly, fires lit, and temporary defenses established with precision honed over countless days. Even in exhaustion, the legionary follows ritual and routine, knowing that survival depends on structure as much as strength. Minor conflicts emerge quietly, a scuffle over a pack, irritation at a slow comrade, or frustration with persistent pain. These are managed swiftly and efficiently by centurions, ensuring that morale is preserved and the cohesion of the unit remains intact. Discipline tempers human impulses, yet the brief flare of tension serves as a subtle reminder of the strain inherent in prolonged campaigns. Camaraderie becomes a vital lifeline in these moments. Soldiers share small comforts, a brief joke to lighten fatigue, a hand on a shoulder, or whispered reassurance to a comrade tending a wound. Even the smallest gestures hold profound significance, reinforcing bonds, sustaining morale, and reminding each legionary that endurance is not solely personal, it is collective, rooted in shared struggle and mutual reliance. Meals are minimal but meaningful. Coarse bread, salted meat, and small portions of dried fruit or cheese are shared around the flickering light of campfires. These moments of sustenance are brief, yet they offer a rhythm, a sense of continuity, and a quiet reprieve from the relentless demands of marching. Soldiers learn to eat efficiently, ration carefully, and find small satisfaction in shared nourishment, even when hunger persists as a constant companion. Hygiene is attended to sparingly. Mud is washed from skin, minor cuts cleaned, and clothing adjusted. Though these acts are brief, they are critical. Neglect invites infection, weakness, and vulnerability. Even amid extreme fatigue, attention to detail remains a hallmark of the disciplined legionary. The smallest care can mean the difference between enduring the next day's march and succumbing to injury or illness. Reflection occupies the mind during the quiet of evening. Soldiers think of home, of loved ones, and of simpler comforts long absent. They consider the challenges of the campaign, the toll of marches and battles, and the resilience required to endure. These thoughts are fleeting yet persistent, offering motivation and grounding in the relentless rhythm of military life. Even amid suffering, moments of introspection reinforce purpose and mental resilience. Night brings the vigil. Sentries patrol with measured steps, eyes scanning for the faintest disturbance, ears attuned to rustling leaves or distant noises. The rest of the camp sleeps in fragments, the body demanding recovery while the mind remains alert to danger. Soldiers rotate shifts, balancing sleep, vigilance, and preparation for the next day's march. The rhythm of alertness and rest becomes a skill in itself, a testament to endurance cultivated over weeks and months of continuous hardship. Small rituals provide comfort. Soldiers might quietly sharpen a weapon, adjust armor straps, or polish a shield by the firelight. These acts, repetitive and deliberate, reinforce readiness and provide subtle psychological reassurance. Even simple routines, checking a pack, sipping water carefully, or exchanging a quiet word with a neighbor, offer grounding, discipline, and a sense of control amidst the uncertainty of campaign life. By midnight, the camp is a scene of quiet persistence. Fires burn low, the air cools, and shadows stretch across tents, mud, and equipment. Soldiers sleep in intervals, muscles gradually relaxing, minds balancing vigilance with rest. Even in slumber, thoughts linger on marches endured, injuries sustained, and the enduring demands of the legion. The rhythm of endurance is continuous, a constant cycle of exertion, care, vigilance, and reflection that defines life on prolonged campaign. As the first hint of dawn touches the horizon, soldiers rise once again. Fatigue remains, yet the body has adapted. The mind, tempered by reflection, discipline, and camaraderie, guides action. The lessons of prolonged campaign life, resilience, vigilance, endurance, and subtle human connection, are reinforced daily, preparing the soldier for the ongoing demands of the legion. Each step, each breath, each gesture carries the weight of experience, forming a rhythm that sustains life under relentless conditions. The first light of dawn seeps across the horizon, painting the sky in pale amber and grey. Soldiers rise slowly, bodies stiff and aching from the previous day's exertions. Blisters, bruises, and muscle fatigue are persistent companions, yet the column moves with disciplined precision. The legionary has learned to accept discomfort as part of the rhythm of campaign life, understanding that endurance is forged through repetition, hardship, and unwavering focus. Morning routines are performed with methodical care. Armor is adjusted, weapons inspected, packs readied, and rations portioned. Small habits, tightening a strap, cleaning a sword edge, checking a water pouch, are elevated to ritual. These repetitive acts, seemingly mundane, provide both practical and psychological grounding, offering structure amid the uncertainty of life on campaign. Each gesture reinforces readiness and prepares body and mind for the day's unrelenting demands. Camaraderie is reinforced in these early hours. Soldiers exchange brief words, share morsels of food, or offer subtle encouragement to those struggling with fatigue. The bonds of shared hardship are palpable, the silent understanding in a glance, the mutual support in adjusting a pack, or the whispered advice for pacing one's energy. These understated interactions preserve morale, reinforcing the collective resilience that is essential for survival in prolonged campaigns. The terrain ahead is daunting. Uneven hills, dense forests, and treacherous marshes test both endurance and awareness. Even small missteps can lead to injury, compromise formation, or delay progress. The soldier learns to observe closely, anticipate hazards, and pace effort according to both environment and body condition. Adaptation is continuous, instinctive, and critical. Each day builds upon lessons from the last, shaping not only physical stamina, but also mental acuity. Hunger and thirst are persistent companions. Rations are modest and often insufficient to fully sustain energy, yet soldiers develop strategies to manage scarcity. Small portions are rationed carefully, water conserved, and brief moments of sharing used to reinforce trust and morale. Even the simplest acts of sustenance become rituals, offering reassurance and continuity amidst the relentless demands of campaign life. Psychological endurance is equally vital. Days blend into one another, monotony punctuated by hardship and occasional danger. Soldiers navigate fatigue, fear, and uncertainty by focusing on immediate tasks: the next mile, the next ration, the next maneuver. Mental discipline, honed through years of training and repeated exposure to adversity, allows focus to persist where exhaustion and anxiety would otherwise dominate. Reflection, brief and quiet, anchors the mind, memories of home, strategies learned from previous campaigns, and the knowledge that survival depends on vigilance and discipline. Discipline is maintained through hierarchy and expectation. Orders from centurions are precise, inspections frequent, and errors corrected immediately. Even when fatigue threatens to compromise attention or compliance, the framework of authority reinforces consistency, cohesion, and efficiency. Soldiers internalize the necessity of obedience, understanding that survival is contingent upon the careful execution of commands and the integrity of collective effort. The afternoon march continues with persistent rhythm. Steps are measured to conserve energy, packs adjusted to alleviate pain, and muscles pushed toward endurance. Every soldier has developed personal strategies, shifting weight, timing breaths, and controlling the pace of movement to maintain stamina. These small adaptations, learned through experience, are vital. Each step is a negotiation between body and will, a demonstration of the legionary's capacity for resilience and mastery over fatigue. Moments of quiet camaraderie punctuate the monotony. Soldiers share observations of the landscape, offer encouragement, or engage in whispered conversations to break the tedium. Humor surfaces, subtle and fleeting but essential to morale. Even amid relentless exertion, small human interactions provide relief, reinforce trust, and remind the legionary that endurance is both personal and collective. As evening approaches, the column sets camp with practiced efficiency. Tents are pitched, fires lit, and temporary defenses arranged. Minor conflicts over space, resources, or fatigue-induced irritability are resolved quickly under the watchful eye of the centurion. Small comforts are embraced: a shared meal, the adjustment of a damp tunic, or the care of a minor wound. Even these modest acts carry profound significance, sustaining morale and reinforcing resilience after a day of relentless exertion. Night brings vigil and fragmented rest. Sentries patrol, ears attuned to the faintest sound, eyes scanning the darkened landscape. Soldiers sleep in intervals, balancing the body's need for recovery with the mind's persistent vigilance. Dreams are fleeting and often haunted by fatigue, past hardship, or concern for comrades. Yet rest, even partial, allows physical recovery and mental recalibration, preparing the soldier for another day of endurance, adaptation, and survival. Reflection underlies every action, every routine, and every gesture. The soldier recognizes that life on campaign is defined not merely by physical hardship, but by the continuous balance between discipline, adaptation, and human connection. Endurance is both a skill and a mindset, cultivated through repetition, informed by experience, and sustained by subtle acts of camaraderie, ritual, and reflection. Survival is the product of body, mind, and community working in unison, each day reinforcing the patterns that allow the legionary to persist against relentless adversity. By the first light of a new day, soldiers rise once more scarred, fatigued, yet disciplined and prepared. They carry forward the lessons of previous marches, battles, and nights, understanding that survival is continuous effort, shaped by routine, vigilance, and shared resilience. The long campaign, though grueling, forges strength of body, clarity of mind, and subtle bonds of humanity that endure even amidst relentless hardship. And so, Chapter 6 concludes. Life in prolonged campaign is unyielding, exhausting, and psychologically demanding. Yet, it is also structured, disciplined, and profoundly human. The soldier survives not solely through strength or skill, but through endurance, adaptation, reflection, and the quiet support of comrades. Each day is a lesson, each challenge a test, and each moment of shared hardship a reinforcement of the bonds that define life in the Legion. The morning air is sharp and still, carrying the faint smell of dew, smoke from distant fires, and the lingering scent of mud and sweat from previous days. Soldiers move with mechanical precision, yet beneath the surface of disciplined action lies a mind grappling with the cumulative weight of campaign life. Each march, each skirmish, each night of fractured sleep leaves its mark, not merely on the body, but on identity itself. The legionary begins to recognize subtle changes in perception. Danger becomes routine, yet the mind remains hyper-alert, scanning for threats with a practiced intensity. Fear is managed, compartmentalized, yet never entirely absent. A rustle in the brush, the glint of a distant shield, or the sudden cry of a comrade can trigger instinctive tension. Over time, this hypervigilance becomes part of the soldier's identity, a blend of caution, discipline, and readiness that persists even in moments of relative safety. Coping mechanisms develop almost instinctively. Soldiers rely on repetition, ritual, and small comforts to maintain equilibrium. Adjusting a pack strap, sharpening a blade, or sharing a quiet word with a neighbor serves as both practical preparation and psychological reassurance. These seemingly trivial actions anchor the mind, providing structure and continuity amidst a life defined by uncertainty and danger. Fatigue and strain are constant companions, shaping thought patterns and responses. The soldier learns to prioritize which discomforts can be ignored, which must be addressed immediately, and which require careful planning to mitigate later. This calculus extends beyond the physical. Emotional and psychological energy must also be rationed. Moments of grief, frustration, or anxiety are deferred, managed in fragments, allowing continued focus on survival and duty. Camaraderie is more than survival. It becomes a pillar of mental resilience. Shared hardship fosters trust, subtle loyalty, and understanding that cannot be articulated fully in words. A glance, a gesture, or a brief interaction can sustain morale more than food or rest. These small bonds are vital lifelines, anchoring the soldier amidst the relentless pressure of campaign life. The mind also contemplates mortality. Daily exposure to danger, the witness of injury and death, and the knowledge of personal vulnerability bring an acute awareness of life's fragility. Soldiers reflect quietly, sometimes in isolation, on what they have survived and what may be inevitable. The awareness of mortality sharpens focus, informs decisions, and instills a tempered appreciation for fleeting moments of reprieve, camaraderie, or personal achievement. Identity becomes intertwined with experience. The legionary measures self not solely by skill or discipline, but by endurance, adaptability, and capacity to navigate relentless hardship. Each day survived reinforces this sense of identity, creating a psychological structure rooted in resilience and continuity. The soldier's self-conception is inseparable from the campaign, a tapestry woven from fatigue, reflection, courage, and shared struggle. Legacy, though abstract, occupies the mind. Thoughts arise how actions today will be remembered by comrades, how survival preserves not only self, but unit cohesion, and how repeated endurance shapes the perception of honor, duty, and contribution. Even small victories, a successful maneuver, saving a fellow soldier, or maintaining discipline under duress, carry significance. They are markers of competence, courage, and identity, silently acknowledged in shared understanding among the ranks. Meals and rest are ritualized, brief and functional, yet they also offer moments of psychological reprieve. Soldiers take care to share, to preserve modest comforts, and to support one another, recognizing that even minor gestures of humanity sustain the mind. The repetition of such routines reinforces both discipline and morale, anchoring the legionary in the delicate balance between survival, endurance, and mental clarity. By afternoon, the soldier has accumulated not only physical fatigue, but also subtle emotional and cognitive strain. Decisions must be constant and precise, attention maintained despite exhaustion, and interactions managed with both care and brevity. Even minor lapses can have consequences. An improperly secured pack, a misjudged step, or an unheeded warning can lead to injury or delay. Mental resilience, sharpened through repeated exposure to challenge, becomes as vital as physical endurance. Reflection persists in quiet moments. Soldiers recall faces left behind, places once familiar, and routines of peace now distant. They reconcile these memories with the immediate demands of campaign life, cultivating a psychological framework that allows survival amidst relentless uncertainty. Identity, endurance, and legacy coalesce in this mental space, forming a structure of thought that sustains both action and reflection. As evening descends, the camp comes alive with subtle rituals, tents adjusted, fires rekindled, minor injuries tended, and water and rations shared. Soldiers move quietly, aware of fatigue, yet committed to both duty and care for comrades. These rituals, though small, are anchors, reinforcing identity, reinforcing bonds, and preserving mental resilience against the erosion of repeated hardship. Night arrives, fragmented sleep begins, and the mind continues to process the day's events. Dreams are fleeting, sometimes haunted by past skirmishes or imagined danger, yet they also provide a means of subconscious reflection. Rest, though incomplete, is essential. It allows the mind to consolidate experiences, process trauma, and prepare for the unrelenting demands of the next day. As the day wanes, the soldier's body is exhausted, yet the mind remains alert, processing layers of stress accumulated over weeks or months of campaign. Fatigue is not merely physical, it seeps into thoughts, influencing perception, sharpening anxieties, and magnifying the emotional weight of past losses. The mental landscape becomes a battlefield of its own, balancing fear, memory, duty, and survival instincts with each deliberate step taken toward the next objective. Trauma is subtle but persistent. Witnessing the fall of comrades, surviving sudden ambushes, and confronting death repeatedly imprints itself on memory. Soldiers internalize these experiences, often suppressing them in order to maintain function. Yet, in quiet moments, during brief pauses while tending wounds or under the faint glow of campfires, these impressions surface. The soldier learns to navigate trauma not by ignoring it entirely, but by containing and compartmentalizing it, creating a mental structure that allows continued survival despite cumulative stress. Moral challenges present themselves constantly. Decisions in combat, when to strike, when to restrain, when to risk oneself for a comrade, shape identity as much as skill. Every action carries weight, often remembered quietly long after the event has passed. Even minor choices, allowing a fellow soldier to endure hardship alone, prioritizing self-preservation over assistance, or adhering strictly to orders despite personal misgivings, leave a subtle imprint on conscience. The soldier's mental resilience must encompass both discipline and reflection, maintaining effectiveness while preserving a coherent sense of self. Camaraderie remains the lifeline. Shared observation, whispered advice, or even brief humor provides psychological support, reinforcing morale and mental stability. Soldiers develop an unspoken system of mutual vigilance, observing subtle cues in behavior, noting signs of mental strain, and offering discreet assistance or encouragement. These acts are both practical and emotional, sustaining the mind as much as they maintain cohesion and efficiency in action. Evening rituals become essential tools for mental survival. Soldiers attend minor wounds, adjust equipment, share scarce rations, and perform routine inspections of gear. These repetitive acts provide structure, grounding, and reassurance. They reinforce readiness while subtly affirming control over circumstances that are otherwise chaotic and unpredictable. In a world defined by uncertainty, these small rituals anchor both body and mind. Reflection during the evening hours is deliberate, though often fragmented. Soldiers contemplate mortality, the impact of their actions, and the bonds forged through hardship. Each loss, each moment of bravery, and each act of endurance is absorbed into a growing understanding of what it means to be a soldier. Identity is both reinforced and challenged, shaped by repeated exposure to danger, tempered by experience, and tempered further by shared struggle. Sleep is approached cautiously. Even in fatigue, the mind remains partially vigilant. Sentries patrol, shadows conceal unknown threats, and dreams are haunted by flashes of past skirmishes or imagined dangers. Yet this fragmented rest allows the consolidation of experiences, the processing of trauma, and preparation for the next day's demands. It is a delicate equilibrium, balancing vulnerability with necessary recovery and rest with persistent alertness. By late night, the camp is quiet but alive with subtle activity. Soldiers exchange brief words, adjust their sleeping positions, or perform small rituals of care. The quiet glow of fires illuminates faces marked by exhaustion, thought, and experience. In these moments, the soldier's identity, resilience, and understanding of legacy are reinforced, forged in the quiet repetition of care, reflection, and vigilance. The long campaign is relentless, testing every facet of human endurance, body, mind, and spirit. Yet through adaptation, discipline, camaraderie, and reflection, the soldier persists. Each day survived is both proof of resilience and a subtle shaping of identity. Each minor ritual, each shared gesture, each careful decision contributes to survival and to the mental framework that allows the legionary to continue despite hardship, uncertainty, and loss. And so Part 2 concludes. Life on campaign is defined by accumulated stress, moral challenges, and the constant negotiation between survival and humanity. The soldier learns that endurance is not only physical, but deeply psychological, forged through repetition, reflection, and the quiet support of comrades. Identity, resilience, and legacy are inseparable from the rhythms of campaign life, shaping the legionary in ways both visible and invisible, immediate and enduring. Dawn breaks slowly over the horizon, pale and quiet, illuminating the temporary camp with muted shades of amber and grey. The legionaries rise, stiff from the night's partial sleep, muscles aching, bodies carrying minor injuries, blisters, and persistent fatigue. Yet each soldier moves with methodical purpose. The long campaign has taught endurance, and even in exhaustion, the rhythm of preparation is precise and unyielding. Early morning rituals are performed with deliberate care. Armor is adjusted, weapons inspected, packs repacked, and rations portioned with quiet efficiency. These acts, though repetitive, provide more than physical readiness. They are psychological anchors. The soldier's mind clings to structure as a means of maintaining equilibrium, organizing thoughts amidst the relentless uncertainty that defines campaign life. Each repeated action reinforces both discipline and mental resilience. Reflection becomes intertwined with these tasks. Soldiers consider lessons from prior marches, skirmishes, and nights of broken rest. They recall choices made under pressure, successes achieved, and mistakes endured. This internal review is subtle yet essential. It strengthens decision-making, sharpens awareness, and solidifies the mental frameworks required to navigate danger, fatigue, and uncertainty. Identity and purpose are affirmed quietly in these moments of introspection. Camaraderie is emphasized anew at first light. Words of encouragement, gestures of support, and brief shared humor reinforce bonds forged through hardship. Soldiers observe subtle signs in each other, exhaustion masked behind stoic expression, the careful adjustment of equipment indicating pain, or the quiet tension that signals worry. Mutual understanding and unspoken vigilance create a web of trust that sustains both morale and effectiveness. The legionary learns that survival is inseparable from the bonds of comradeship, that the individual cannot endure alone. Cumulative fatigue is omnipresent. The body remembers prior exertions. Muscles ache, joints protest, and every step demands conscious effort. Yet the soldier has learned adaptation. Adjusting pace, managing breath, and balancing energy expenditures are habits honed over weeks of campaigning. Even minor miscalculations, an unbalanced pack, a misjudged stride, or a momentary lapse of attention can lead to injury or compromised progress. Mastery of endurance is both instinctive and deliberate, an unspoken contract between mind and body. Mental endurance, however, is equally vital. Each soldier carries memories of loss, the weight of responsibility for comrades, and the awareness of personal vulnerability. Reflection, compartmentalization, and the subtle use of humor or ritual allow cognition to remain functional despite the psychological toll. Decision-making is sharpened not only by training, but by accumulated experience, anticipating hazards, calculating effort, and mitigating the impact of fatigue or fear. Evening rituals from previous days are internalized. The legionary now performs them instinctively, each motion a blend of habit, discipline, and subtle psychological reinforcement. Sharpening blades, adjusting armor, tending wounds, and rationing supplies are not merely functional. They are acts that anchor the mind and sustain a sense of control over circumstances that remain otherwise unpredictable. Each small gesture reinforces readiness, continuity, and resilience. The soldier also internalizes lessons of mortality and legacy. Exposure to repeated danger, the observation of fallen comrades, and the reflection on personal survival cultivate an acute awareness of life's fragility. Actions are measured not solely by immediate survival, but by their contribution to cohesion, morale, and the enduring bonds of the Legion. Even minor victories, protecting a comrade, maintaining formation, or surviving against odds, carry lasting significance in the mental calculus of identity and purpose. Sleep remains fragmented but essential. Dreams are fleeting, often infused with echoes of past skirmishes or imagined dangers. Yet rest allows consolidation of experience, reflection on moral choices, and subtle reinforcement of mental resilience. The legionary awakens each day strengthened mentally and physically, prepared for the cycle of marches, exertion, vigilance, and reflection to continue. By midday, the camp moves with quiet efficiency. Tasks are completed with precision, water sources are secured, rations distributed, equipment maintained, and minor injuries treated. Soldiers share observations, note hazards, and offer quiet encouragement, reinforcing the collective rhythm of survival. The long campaign is a mosaic of such repeated actions, small, deliberate, and collectively sustaining the endurance of the Legion. As Chapter 7 concludes, the soldier's identity is inseparable from experience. Fatigue, stress, and exposure to danger shape both body and mind, yet discipline, reflection, camaraderie, and subtle rituals preserve resilience. The legionary understands that survival is not merely physical, it is a complex interplay of endurance, adaptation, moral navigation, and shared human connection. Each day survived, each challenge met, and each bond reinforced forms the structure of identity, fortifying both mind and spirit against the relentless demands of campaign life. The long campaign leaves its mark not only in scars and blisters, but in the subtle architecture of thought, perception, and understanding. The soldier emerges tempered, disciplined, and profoundly human, capable of enduring extremes, processing trauma, and maintaining integrity amidst chaos. Identity, resilience, and legacy converge in the quiet routines, subtle gestures, and shared experience that define life on the march. The dawn is crimson, the sky streaked with clouds of smoke and dust as the legionaries assemble for the day's battle. Every soldier knows the rhythm by now, the tightening of straps, the weight of shield and armor, the careful inspection of gladius and pilum. Yet no amount of preparation can fully insulate the mind from the anticipation of violence, the uncertainty of the enemy, or the knowledge of mortal danger that waits just beyond the horizon. The first clash is sudden, jarring, and absolute. Shields lock, swords meet, and the air is filled with shouts, the clang of metal, and the chaotic rhythm of combat. The soldier must act instinctively, responding to both training and experience. Every movement is calculated yet reactive. A thrust here, a block there, a step to avoid the enemy's strike. Survival demands precision, speed, and relentless focus, while fatigue and fear lurk at the edges of consciousness. Cumulative stress manifests almost immediately. Heart rate surges, muscles tense, and the mind alternates between hypervigilance and tunnel vision. The soldier senses the death of a comrade before it occurs, notices the subtle shift in enemy formation, and anticipates danger with a mix of instinct and experience. The physical toll is immediate, but the mental strain is even more exacting, demanding constant attention and rapid decision-making. Heroism emerges organically, often unplanned. A soldier shields a comrade from a fatal blow, charges to disrupt an enemy flank, or seizes a fleeting opportunity to turn the tide of engagement. These acts, though brief and spontaneous, carry immense weight. They are moments where courage, skill, and presence of mind converge, shaping both the outcome of battle and the individual's sense of identity. Yet heroism is inseparable from risk. Every act of bravery has the potential to end in injury or death, a stark reminder of the fragility of life in combat. Loss is omnipresent. The fallen lie scattered, their absence immediately felt in the rhythm of the unit. Each death reverberates through the formation, influencing morale, strategy, and focus. The soldier learns to process grief rapidly, compartmentalizing emotional responses while maintaining discipline and effectiveness. Survival requires not only physical skill but emotional resilience, a quiet strength born of repeated exposure to tragedy and danger. Decisions are split-second, yet monumental. Choosing whether to advance, retreat, or protect a comrade carries immediate tactical implications and long-term consequences. The soldier weighs instinct, training, and situational awareness constantly, recognizing that hesitation can be fatal and rashness equally deadly. Mental acuity, honed through prior campaigns, becomes as critical as physical prowess, a guiding compass amid chaos. The environment itself amplifies danger. Uneven terrain, smoke and debris obscure vision. Dust chokes the lungs, and the cries of men and horses create an overwhelming sensory tapestry. The soldier must navigate not only the enemy, but the unpredictable conditions that accompany prolonged combat. Every step, every swing of the sword, and every defensive maneuver is informed by careful observation, experience, and adaptability. Camaraderie is tested under fire. Trust, previously forged in marches, camp rituals, and minor skirmishes, becomes literal lifelines. Soldiers rely on subtle signals, the positioning of shields, and coordinated maneuvers to survive. Shared observation and instinctive support maintain cohesion, ensuring that each individual's actions reinforce the collective effort. The bonds of trust, built over months of hardship, now determine who lives and who falls. Moments of reflection are fleeting but profound. In brief lulls between the chaos of charges, the pause before another assault or a temporary retreat, the soldier contemplates mortality, the cost of survival, and the lives of those fallen. These reflections are quick, yet they anchor understanding, forging a mental narrative that allows endurance in the face of repeated stress. Survival is not only physical but psychological, sustained through reflection, adaptation, and subtle acts of human connection. By midday, exhaustion begins to claim the body. Muscles ache, vision blurs at the periphery, and every movement demands more effort. Yet the soldier continues, driven by training, instinct, and the unspoken responsibility to comrades. Adaptation is constant, regulating breathing, adjusting footing, shifting grip on weapons, and pacing exertion to extend endurance. The mind and body function as a single, disciplined unit, honed to meet the relentless demands of battle. The battlefield is silent now, save for the distant murmur of the wounded and the occasional crackle of dying fires. The air hangs heavy with dust, smoke, and the lingering scent of blood and sweat. The soldiers, exhausted but disciplined, begin the slow process of recovery and reintegration. Tents are reassembled, minor fortifications restored, and equipment tended with meticulous care. Even amid fatigue, routine and structure are restored. They are lifelines, anchoring the mind as well as the body. The first priority is physical recovery. Wounds are cleaned, bandaged and monitored. Armor is repaired, weapons sharpened, and blisters treated with water, wine, or herbal salves. Pain is persistent, yet soldiers learn to manage it with both practical skill and mental endurance. Muscles are stretched, small exercises performed to ease stiffness, and attention is given to posture and movement. Survival depends not only on healing but on preparation for the next day, the next march, the next campaign. Nutrition, though modest, is critical. Rations are distributed carefully, dried meats, coarse bread, and small portions of cheese or fruit. Soldiers eat efficiently, often silently, understanding that the energy gained is essential for both physical recovery and mental clarity. Water is rationed, but the simple act of drinking slowly, mindfully, becomes a ritual, a small gesture of care that reinforces endurance and focus. Camaraderie is central to reintegration. The quiet moments after battle allow for shared stories, brief humor, and observation of comrades. Soldiers tend to one another, offering support for injuries or fatigue. These acts of care, though subtle, reinforce bonds and maintain cohesion, reminding each legionary that survival is collective, not solely individual. Trust forged in the heat of combat is strengthened in these quiet acts of recovery. Reflection dominates the mind. Soldiers consider the events of the battle, the choices made, the losses sustained, the moments of courage, and the near misses that might have ended life or limb. Each event is absorbed into memory, internalized as lessons for the future. Reflection is not indulgent. It is practical and psychological, a process of organizing experience into a framework that strengthens identity, discipline, and readiness. Trauma lingers beneath the surface. Memories of fallen comrades, sudden attacks, and the raw intensity of combat resurface unpredictably. Soldiers learn to navigate these episodes quietly, using routine, ritual, and camaraderie as stabilizing forces. Even brief moments of laughter or shared storytelling serve as subtle therapy, grounding the mind and reaffirming resilience. The human spirit is fragile, yet adaptable, shaped as much by support and reflection as by endurance and discipline. The discipline of routine persists. Even in recovery, soldiers maintain the practices that define campaign life: inspections of armor, sharpening of weapons, tending of minor injuries, and careful rationing of supplies. Each repetition reinforces readiness, reinforces mental structure, and provides a measure of control in a world where uncertainty and danger are constants. Habit, ritual, and attention to detail sustain both body and mind. Moral and emotional reckoning is quiet but essential. Soldiers contemplate the consequences of their actions, the lives spared or lost, and the weight of their responsibilities. Each choice, however fleeting, is integrated into the soldier's understanding of self and duty. Internal reflection alongside shared counsel with comrades fosters a mental framework capable of sustaining discipline and compassion amid the relentless demands of campaign life. Evening descends with a muted glow, and tents are lit by small fires. Soldiers move with careful deliberation, attending minor injuries, adjusting gear, and quietly observing one another. Sleep is pursued in fragments, balancing the need for rest with the persistence of vigilance. Dreams are haunted by images of battle, yet also serve as subtle processing of trauma, preparation for future campaigns, and reinforcement of identity. Even slumber is a tool of survival, carefully managed, consciously respected. The day ends with rituals that are simple yet profound: the distribution of water, the sharing of rations, quiet conversations, and the adjustment of equipment for the next day's march. These acts, repetitive and deliberate, provide comfort, structure, and continuity. They reinforce the delicate balance between vulnerability and strength, between individual endurance and collective cohesion. The soldier emerges from the aftermath transformed. Physical wounds may heal, but scars remain as reminders of resilience and survival. Mental endurance is sharpened, identity reinforced, and the bonds of trust with comrades deepened. Each reflection, each act of care, each ritualized motion contributes to the architecture of experience, creating a framework capable of sustaining both body and mind in the relentless cycles of campaign life. As Chapter 9 concludes, the legionary understands that the aftermath of battle is more than recovery. It is a continuous process of adaptation, reflection, and preparation. Survival is inseparable from discipline, camaraderie, and subtle psychological fortitude. Lessons learned in the heat of conflict are refined in quiet moments, solidifying both identity and resilience. The soldier moves forward, prepared for future campaigns, shaped indelibly by the experiences endured and the bonds formed. The march has ended, though not truly. The soldier stands in quiet reflection, the dust of campaigns settling into worn armor, the memories of comrades, victories, and losses etched into every scar and crease. The journey of a Roman legionary is measured not merely in miles or battles, but in endurance, resilience, and the subtle shaping of identity through relentless hardship. Even after the weapons are sheathed and the armor stored, the mind remains engaged. Memory carries forward the intensity of battle, the rhythm of camp life, and the intimate bonds forged in adversity. Each day survived, each comrade supported, and each decision made under pressure leaves its mark, shaping the soldier's understanding of self and of the world. Reflection becomes both necessity and ritual, a means of preserving identity in the wake of relentless experience. Legacy is contemplated quietly. Soldiers understand that deeds, small and large, resonate beyond immediate survival. Heroic acts, moments of compassion, and disciplined endurance all contribute to a lasting impression, not just upon comrades, but upon the story of the Legion itself. Each soldier becomes a thread in the vast tapestry of Roman history, a witness and participant in events that stretch far beyond individual life. Memory is selective yet vivid. Faces of fallen comrades return, flashes of skirmishes replay, and the lessons of each engagement persist. The soldier learns to honor loss without being consumed by it, integrating the experiences of survival, courage, and failure into a coherent mental framework. Memories become both guide and testament, tools to navigate future uncertainty, and reminders of resilience tested in extremes. Reflection extends to personal growth and identity. Endurance, discipline, courage, and moral navigation have defined the soldier as much as training and combat. The legionary recognizes that survival depended not only on strength and skill, but on careful attention, subtle cooperation, and an unwavering commitment to purpose. These qualities endure beyond campaigns, shaping behavior, thought, and perception in life beyond the battlefield. The soldier contemplates mortality with a nuanced understanding. Repeated exposure to danger, the witness of death, and the navigation of moral challenges cultivate an acute awareness of life's fragility. Yet this awareness does not paralyze. It sharpens perception, clarifies priorities, and deepens appreciation for both survival and connection. Each day endured, each hardship navigated becomes a lesson in resilience and the human capacity for adaptation. Camaraderie is remembered not only as survival strategy but as defining human experience. Bonds forged under fire, nurtured in camp and reinforced through shared hardship persist in memory as enduring markers of connection. Trust, loyalty, and subtle support are recognized as essential not only to survival, but to the shaping of identity and moral perspective. These bonds are a quiet, lasting legacy. The legionary also reflects on routine and ritual. The seemingly mundane acts, inspections of weapons, tending of wounds, distribution of rations, and the repetitive rhythm of marches provided structure and stability. They became anchors for mind and body, preserving equilibrium amidst chaos. Even after campaigns end, these rituals remain symbolic, reminding the soldier of both endurance and discipline. Evening descends as the final reflection deepens. The legionary considers what it means to have lived through campaigns, to have faced constant danger, and to have persisted through the extreme demands of military life. The mind integrates experience, moral decision-making, and acts of courage into a cohesive narrative, solidifying identity and resilience. Lessons learned in hardship now inform wisdom, perspective, and quiet strength. Legacy is not only personal, but collective. The soldier understands that individual endurance contributed to the survival and triumph of the Legion as a whole. Every march completed, every formation maintained, every comrade supported forms a web of continuity, connecting past, present, and future in the ongoing story of Rome. Even small actions have ripples that extend beyond immediate experience, shaping the broader tapestry of history. Memory and reflection intertwine with anticipation. Though campaigns may end, life continues, shaped by endurance, experience, and human connection. The soldier recognizes that identity, resilience, and understanding have been forged through repeated exposure to danger, hardship, and moral challenge. These qualities endure, informing all future actions, interactions, and personal philosophy. The chapter and the journey concludes with quiet awareness. Survival, courage, discipline, and reflection are intertwined. The soldier stands not only as witness to history, but as participant, shaped indelibly by the rhythms of campaign life. Identity, camaraderie, legacy, and memory coalesce, forming a nuanced understanding of what it means to endure, to act, and to live within the relentless demands of a Roman legionary's life. Even in silence, the lessons remain. Each act of resilience, each bond formed, each moral choice, and each moment of courage is remembered, integrated, and honored. The soldier's journey, though defined by hardship, leaves an enduring testament to human strength, adaptation, and perseverance, the subtle yet profound architecture of life in one of history's most formidable armies. As the final fires burn low, the legionary reflects on survival, endurance, and identity, understanding that the essence of being a Roman soldier was never merely about conquest or duty. It was about navigating the relentless extremes of human experience, forging bonds, preserving resilience, and leaving a legacy that extends beyond the self, beyond the battlefield, and into memory itself. The march has ended, yet the echoes of the campaign linger. The soldier walks among memories of battle, camaraderie, and endurance, each step a testament to resilience forged in extremes. Wounds heal, scars remain, and lessons persist, silent reminders of the fragility and strength of human life. Life as a Roman soldier was never simple. It demanded courage, discipline, and the quiet endurance of body and mind. It was a life of hardship, loss, and fleeting triumphs, but also of deep bonds, reflection, and identity forged under relentless pressure. In the end, what survives is not only the story of battles fought or lands conquered, but the enduring spirit of those who walked the long roads, bore the weight of armor and duty, and carried the legacy of a life lived fully in the service of something larger than themselves. The soldier's journey ends, but memory, resilience, and legacy continue, quietly shaping the story of Rome and of those who endured within its legions.